Check. Check. 1, 2. Check. Check. 1.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ms. Henry,
Mr. Hikes. Ms. Weiss.
Present.
Ms. Hubbard.
Present.
Ms. Lau. Ms. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Davis.
Present.
Ms. Cousins.
yes.
We have a quorum.
Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Spirit of excellence. On Thursday, May 26, I had the opportunity to listen to 8 students from St. Louis Public Schools and Confluence Academy. They took part in a student-led roundtable focusing on gun safety at the Sun Theater. This was brought about from our students from, I want to say about a year ago when we first was faced with unfortunate gun violence with some of our students throughout the city of St. Louis. We had some young students that actually took their lives due to gun violence. We started a launch where we were focusing on how do we focus on helping save our lives, save the lives of our students. And we were always looking at the adults to come up with answers. This time we leaned on our students to give us answers, and we launched this program where we had a panel of students that came from all different backgrounds, St. Louis Public Schools, St. Louis Charter Schools. And these 8 students actually gave us the opportunity to listen to them, and their voices basically leaned in, and they were giving us great ideas, and they're going to lean in and give us and be the champions that we need to understand how do we help cure and focus on the violence of guns and be better preventions to do this. And it's going to be them leading the charge. One of the biggest topics that they wanted to talk about was, why do we always make guns a taboo, not wanting to talk about it in schools? Why do we not take the time to talk about the unfortunate mishaps or issues behind death, and how do we mourn death in the right way? Why do we run from it and not talk about it? So we're going to come up with preventive ways to discuss trauma, and how do the students come up with the ways and come up with ideas on how to address things for them to do and activities for them to do. So that was one of the first led challenges that we were able to talk about, and that's going to be the beginning of many opportunities that we're going to give our students to have their voices heard. So I want to thank the Office of OIA from St. Louis Public School, as well as Confluence Academy and their staff for doing an excellent job and taking part in that forum. Camp SLPS update. St. Louis Public Schools Summer Learning Program, Camp SLPS, is underway in 19 sites throughout the district. As of Monday, June 12th, nearly 4,600 students are participating in Camp SLPS programming from rising kindergarten through high school. This represents almost 25% of the SLPS students population from 2022-2023 school year. The first 7 days of Camp SLPS have included visits by the roving chef, hands-on STEM activities, and author visits, snow cones, freeze pops, and field trips. There is no Camp SLPS on Monday, June 19th, in honor of the Juneteenth holiday. Camp SLPS continues through Friday, June 30th. Superintendent Dr. Nicole Williams, Spirit of Excellence.
Thank you very much, Board President Cousins. Good evening, everyone. I'm just honored and privileged this evening. We're recognizing one of our seniors this year. We are spotlighting Nyla Brown. We're so excited to spotlight Nyla Brown this evening. Nyla Brown is a rising senior at Metro Academy Academic and Classical High School, where her principal is Dr. Tina Hamilton, assistant principal Dr. LaRon Haymore, and network superintendent Dr. Mitchell. Nyla won second place in the 2022-23 SLPS Safety Art Contest. This year's theme was Maintaining Mental Health. The title of her winning artwork, and you can see it here on display, is Look Closer. Her artwork is here, and I'll invite her up in a moment to share. I know that she is inspired and has inspired so many others in her class at Metro High School. Her art teacher is Annie Seiler. We know great teachers inspire great students, so thank you, Ms. Seiler. Nyla is the captain of her 2022-23 girls basketball team. She shared that basketball and art are her go-to activities and is looking into continuing basketball in college next year. In addition, she has built a small part-time beautician business. I want to just take a moment and recognize and celebrate excellence, Nyla Brown. Let's bring her up to the podium.
Hello. I wanted to talk about my piece, Look Closer, and basically the how it came about. So my media I used was ink on watercolor paper, and I wanted to portray the feeling of not being able to get your feelings across and out. So it's basically showing that you keep all your thoughts and feelings and everything trapped inside of you, and I know that's not healthy, so I decided to do that for mental health awareness. I was also told to bring a couple of my other art pieces and talk about those. The first one at the top, I take an IB art class at school, and basically my theme as an artist is my personal theme is to show, I make pieces on my personal past and memories and things. So the first one is actually titled Memories. It's a charcoal and graphite piece of me and my dad when I was a baby. And it took about, I would say 2 to 3 weeks to make on and off. The portrait part of it is in graphite pencils, all different types of pencils, and I did the background in charcoal. Now my second piece is a self-portrait. I did that in all charcoal. It took about, I would say, a week and a half to make. This was actually my first time using charcoal, so I had a lot of trial and error in it. But yeah, my last piece is just it's called a master copy. So I went on the internet and I found a random portrait of somebody, and I had to bring it to life and recreate it. So that's also in charcoal. I do like to make pieces in charcoal and graphite the most rather than painting. Yeah.
Let's give Nyla a rousing round of applause. What I'd like to say As Nyla pointed out, she's in the International Baccalaureate program, just graduated from Metro High School. And I do want to point out that International Baccalaureate, their mission is to develop lifelong learners who thrive and make a difference. So thank you, Nyla. You are number one in her book. You're not second place, you are first place right here with our Board of Education and our community. So thank you so much for sharing your artwork. I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to recognize, acknowledge, and thank John Grapperhaus. John does an amazing, amazing job. He did an absolutely awesome job this year coordinating and organizing the 22nd Annual St. Louis Public Schools Art Fair at the zoo. I was truly motivated and inspired by the incredible artwork, over 150 pieces on display at the St. Louis Zoo, and now here in our atrium right outside this door here at 801. I want to thank our sponsors. It was sponsored by the donors to the St. Louis Public Schools Foundation and the St. Louis Zoo. So thank you so much to Mr. John Grapperhaus, who coordinates all of our artwork here in the district, and is just very intentional as a curriculum specialist around art and ensuring that the arts thrive in St. Louis Public Schools. So thank you. This evening, in our spirit of excellence, I would love to recognize 9 graduating seniors who earned Missouri Seal of Biliteracy Awards, 7 in Spanish and 2 in Vietnamese. The Seal of Biliteracy is an award available to native English speakers studying a foreign language and English language learners acquiring English and maintaining their heritage language. To earn this award, students must meet 3 criteria: proficiency in English, proficiency in a language other than English, and social cultural competency. Many universities have incentives for the Seal of Biliteracy recipients and award up to 12 credit hours of coursework. The Seal of Biliteracy can also benefit students as they apply for jobs, as more and more employers are certainly looking for the Seal of Biliteracy. They're supporting that, and they're looking for bilingual workers. In addition, our district has 2 pathways to biliteracy awards to recognize our younger students working towards biliteracy. We have the Emerging Bilingual for pre-K through 4 scholars in our district, and we have Developing Bilingual for 5th and 8th grade scholars. This year, St. Louis Public Schools awarded 461 pathways to biliteracy awards to scholars from Meriwela, Dewey, Gateway Elementary, Mann, Mason, Melanphy, Oak Hill, Siegel, Warner, Woodward, ASM, Bush, Carlene, Compton Drew, McKinley Middle, NCNNA K through 8, and Long. I want to say congratulations to all of our Pathways to Biliteracy Award recipients. I also want to take a moment to thank Dr. Ala Gonzalez del Castillo. She is the director of our ESOL Migrant Bilingual Program, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Ala del Gonzalez del Castillo to give just an overview of the awards, and certainly to announce 2 of the award winners who are here tonight, who will share in their native language and the language, the second language of acquisition, information that we all should be very proud of. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez.
Good evening. It is my honor today to share the names of our 9 graduates, SLPS graduates who met the requirements and received Missouri Seal of Biliteracy. Mariana Ramirez Villalbazo from CSMB received Missouri Seal of Biliteracy in Spanish. Nina Orihuela from CSMB earned the Missouri Seal of Biliteracy in Spanish. Fatma Alkuzai from CSMB received the Seal of Biliteracy in Spanish. Lina Pham from Metro qualified for the Seal of Biliteracy in Vietnamese. Morgan Greenberry from Metro qualified for the Missouri Seal of Biliteracy in Spanish. Clarity Brooks from Metro received a Seal of Biliteracy in Spanish. Ayana Kelly from Metro qualified for the Missouri Seal of Biliteracy in Spanish. Angela Buelos from Clayton Miller Career Academy met the requirements for Missouri Seal of Biliteracy in Spanish. And Tung Ang Nong from Gateway STEM earned Missouri Seal of Biliteracy in Vietnamese. 2 of our Seal of Biliteracy recipients joined us this evening. Please welcome me in introducing to you Fatma Alkuzai, and Fatma will share with you a poem in Spanish.
Hi,
This poem is called Sueño Cumplido. Cuando sea lo que piensas, es necesario que actúes, y donde sea lo que sitúes, el destino pediría que lo empieces. Si tienta el flaqueo, solo perseverar otorga energías, y si te topas con epifanías, aprovecharlas será ameno. Es un solo camino, el que conduce al lugar deseado. Será bastante espinado, pero al cruzarlo, tu sueño ya no será en vilo. No hay mucha ciencia, solo un poco de voluntad, y en el caso de fuerte tempestad, forjarle al coraje un escudo de paciencia. Habrás soñado sin haber dormido, entre tanto barullo, y con piel erizada de orgullo, te espera este sueño, tu sueño cumplido. This poem is just about the importance of following your dreams, even if you face difficulties, and the difficulties serve as like a lesson, and yeah.
Muchísimas gracias, Fátima. Gracias a usted.
Thank you, Fatma. At this time, please join me in welcoming Tung Ang. He will share his thoughts and ideas about dreams and how important it is to be committed and follow the path towards your dreams. And he will share that in Vietnamese.
Excellent.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tung An, and I have a little bit rap about dream and the pursuit of dreams. Ước mơ phải lớn hơn sự sợ hãi. Nếu ước mơ của bạn không mạnh, thì ước mơ của bạn sẽ không bao giờ thành hiện thực. Ước mơ làm cho con người ta lớn hơn. Ước mơ thôi thúc chúng ta cố gắng vươn lên trong cuộc sống để biến nó thành hiện thực. Có những ước mơ xa vời và mãi mãi không thể thực hiện được. Nhưng có những ước mơ rất giản đơn và song cũng hết rất đẹp đẽ và luôn trong tầm tay. Nếu một ngày cuộc sống của bạn nhuộm màu tăm tối, vậy ước mơ sẽ là ánh đèn chiếu sáng con đường ta đi. Và ước mơ không có ngày hết hạn. Chỉ có những người chấp nhận thất bại mới có thể học được cách để thành công. Vì vậy hãy là chính mình và đừng để điều gì có thể che khuất ước mơ, niềm tin và hoài bão. Và không bao giờ là quá muộn để thay đổi ước mơ của mình. Dreams have to be greater than fear. If your desire is not strong enough, your dreams will not never become true. Dreams are the fuel to your life. It's what drives you to destinations and make your life worthwhile. Some dreams also immense that it cannot be done, and some other dreams are simple but also beautiful and within reach. If your life became dull one day, let the light of your dream guide the way. And dreams never expire. Only those who accept failure can learn how to succeed. So be yourself and don't let anything hinder your faith and ambition. It's never too late to pursue your dream.
Thank you, Tunan. I'm sorry. Tunan, would you stay there for one moment? Bring him back. Bring him back for a moment. I'm sorry, I'm remiss. I don't know how to say thank you in Vietnamese. Would you teach me, please?
Thank you, Vietnamese. Cảm ơn.
Cảm ơn.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our students, our scholars. Thank you to our families. Families, just stand for a moment. We want to recognize you. We are so honored and privileged to serve and to serve all of our students well. We want to thank you and recognize our families. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here this evening. I also want to thank Nyla's family for being here this evening. Thank you so much to our teachers, to our leaders. Thank you, Dr. Ala Gonzalez del Castillo. Yes, sir. Thank you. We will continue to ensure that we open the world to our children, to our families. It is so important, the work that we do each and every day to ensure that every scholar, every day in every classroom here in the St. Louis Public Schools has a high-quality education they so richly deserve. So thank you so much, families, for entrusting us with your most precious gift, your children. Board President, Cousins. That concludes our Spirit of Excellence presentations.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams, back to you for your presentation. We'll turn it over to Urban League School Partnership Update.
Thank you very much, President Cousins. I'm going to invite Dr. Beth Bender. She's right there, of Student Support Services. And I also want to recognize and acknowledge that the President and CEO of our Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis, Mr. Michael McMillan, is here in the audience. Thank you for being here, sir. We appreciate it. Dr. Bender and team.
Good evening. Tonight you will have the opportunity to vote on a contract with the Urban League related to support services that are coming through the Office of Student Support Services. As you know, I've been in the job for a couple months, and I have learned a tremendous, stop it, Cousins. I've learned so much. There were so many things that I've been in the district quite a while that I didn't realize. And one of the things that we've really been working on is streamlining our services and kind of tearing down the silos. So this is a part of that. When we look at the work that goes on in our schools, it is not anymore just reading, writing, and arithmetic. We are called upon to do so much more. And that office in the corner back here is not enough to do it all. So for that, we go to partners and agencies, and we bring in the village to help us raise the children and get done what needs to be done. So with that said, I turn it over to Dr. LaCrissa Crenshaw, who is the Director of School and Institutional Partnerships for the Urban League, and she's going to tell us a little bit the kind of the history and the work that has been done, and then after that we will take some questions.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us to come in and to share a little bit about our partnership with SLPS for the last 9 years. So I'm going to ask you to kind of follow along on a little story, once upon a time. We have the Community School Partnership has been in St. Louis Public Schools for about 9 years. We started in 2014. And the purpose of our program is to support families and children at the same time. We use a two-generational approach. A lot of times people always look at it through a lens of how are we working with children or how are we working with families. Our program is service-oriented around case management to support from a two-generational approach. And we call them student and family mentors because, you know, case manager, people aren't cases to be managed. I think mentorship goes a long way, and so that's why we call them student and family mentors. The history that we have, we started in Clay Elementary in 2014. They had a very high mobility rate at that time, and what our charge was to come into the school and help bring down the mobility rate and to help increase attendance. Our pyramid of student success is what we utilize. It was a formula that was created with Harlem Children's Zone and Children's Aid Society out of Harlem, New York. And so we have been utilizing that as an opportunity to be able to service our children and families together, starting with enrollment, and then mobility rate. If you bring down mobility rate, what you're able to do is then focus and work closely with families to get attendance up, and then work with children once they're in the school around behavior, and then you can have them ready to learn in the classroom around academics. And in that space of 2014, 2015, we worked hard to bring down the mobility rate with the staff and the principal very closely. It was not just our little support, it was all of us working together as a team to make this happen. But what we saw is a 15% decrease in mobility and an increase the following year in attendance, where we went from 77% to 92%. And the same thing 2 years later, because of our success we were having at Clay, we were able to expand to Bryan Hill, and Bryan Hill always held really great attendance on their own, but even with our program in the schools supporting around mobility, you saw an increase to the point where they were the highest in the district in 2017, 2018. Some of the services that our program provides, but not limited to, includes crisis intervention, daily school attendance, phone calls home. So when we notice a child is not in the school, that's normally a signal something's going on. So we make phone calls immediately to reach out to families. If we haven't been able to get families, our team will do a home visit to see what's going on. A lot of times, even if there's a social worker in the school, the social worker may only be there 2 days a week because they're split between schools. And so we're there to kind of capture some of what's going on. So when they're on site, we're able to do home visits together and work towards a solution where the family is concerned if there is a problem going on. We also support in the space of doing student support services like creating attendances. So we create incentives around campaigns to make kids excited about coming to school, making the scholars want to be in the school setting with the red carpet, or whether it's with the Lit Minute or Books and Breakfast with a family, where the families come and read books with their children and have breakfast. It's all about supporting both at the same time. And during the pandemic is when our program picked up and expanded into this contract. In 2020, March of 2020, we began working in 5 additional schools. In those 5 additional schools, that's when the world shut down. We had to look at things through a whole different lens. We had to think outside the box and be creative. So that is the time we actually started working very closely through a virtual perspective, trying to support families. But our team was a team that would go out when we started giving iPads to try to get children online virtually. We were making deliveries, setting apart, helping make sure that children were able to be online and be in attendance in the schools. We supported by giving food to families that might have been in a challenged situation, or even getting toiletries to them. We supported in any way we could, including during the summer camps. We were responsible for helping also still continue to get the basic needs to families, so they were in a space of stability and not moving around or worried about getting their child to school during the summertime. And then we thank you to Ms. Vanoy for getting this data from the district office so we could take a look at what our results were looking like. And for what we could see, we did a great job in mobility over the last year. For at least 5 of those schools, mobility rates were almost cut in half. For others, we saw some slight increases in attendance from those attendance calls, from those relationships that were being built with families, where we were calling and helping access resources for families, whether it was getting them to, the closest place to get information about housing, or them coming to us to get food through our food distributions that we did, or even with the employment space, getting them access to employment. All of the things that we did to kind of work to support those families was kind of showing up in some of this alongside the work that we did with principals and the school staff as well. And when you look at our impact, we look at how many people were served. We had over 1,500, including children and families together. We did 4,000 plus calls for attendance, and this is through April, so this doesn't even take us through May. We haven't got our May and June data in yet, but 4,000 so far have been made just to inspire families to get their children to school, because towards the end of the year it gets a little harder to get them out there. So to make sure we're still encouraging that, we had about 825 or 26, I'm sorry, of our crisis interventions that were supported for families. So that might have been helping a family to find housing, helping a family with utility assistance, helping a family to be able to get food or basic necessities, or even getting them back to the counselor to get support if they needed counseling. Those were the kind of things that our team would support with, because they're in the school every day, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. So even when a lot of the staff were able to go home, our team was still there working. And that was because parents a lot of times work late in the evening, so they may need to reach out to someone, and that was our space. And then this is kind of a day in the life of a mentor, so it kind of shows a little bit of what our team goes through during a day. So that includes making morning attendance calls, as we just said, routine check-ins. So even if there's a crisis going on, you have to follow up. It means nothing to find out there's a crisis and give a referral and that's it. You have to be able to reach back around and say, hey, did you follow through on that phone call? Did it help? Do you need another referral? What else can we do to support you? Because even though this is kind of post-pandemic, there are a lot of people still working to stabilize their homes, stabilize their lives after the pandemic. And that's where our team has been working very closely with the school staff to make sure that the families have what they need to be stable to support what the children can do. They'll be ready to learn in the classroom because they're not bringing just a pen and paper in a backpack. They're not bringing the extra things that may come along like challenges and obstacles. Those are work to be eliminated so they can be ready to learn in the classroom. And no summers off, so our team works year-round. We don't take off summers. We work during the summer because we recognize from doing this for 9 years, typically during the summers when families actually start losing a lot more. They start having a lot more challenges. That's when the mobility rate starts to pick up because now you went from, having school breakfast and lunch being served at home to now I got breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks all on me at home, as well as all the other things I have to work on. So our team works to support those families to have what they need so they stay stable during the summer and they're able to come back to the school and begin in August. And what parents are saying, I think you had an opportunity to kind of read that, but just some of the things. It was a longer list than this, but we just picked some out to show that we work in collaboration. This is not in silence, this is not in a silo. This is us working in collaboration to get work done. When we're working towards educational equity, it means all hands are on board to support in this work, and that's what we're really trying to do, to support children and families to be in their best space where they can actually attend and be able to show up and achieve their greatest potential. And then even for the cost of the program, typically it costs about $850,000 to run the program. We typically get about $525 through the contract. The rest we break into the supplement to fundraise for or get into supporting other staff to be there for the 3 schools that we support outside of the contract, and along with all the services we use to offer for our families to be stable and our children to be inspired. And then just a parent success story, just an opportunity to share that we had a parent that was at Jefferson that actually went through a process from homelessness to stability, to being unhoused, to being in a space where she has her own apartment. She has all the fixings to go in the apartment. She has a job with employment and now able to provide for her family without any extra supports. Now, it took a little while to get there, but the mentor worked very closely with her, with other people that were along the way on the community agency side. And now this is one of many stories that we have to say that have made a difference. And so that's all.
Any questions?
I've got a question or two. So if you just talk a little bit about mobility, I mean, we've talked a lot about it. We're engaged in a study about mobility with the university partnerships. If you just sort of define it, what are the causes in your experience, and then what are the tactics that your mentors employ in order to reduce those mobility rates?
So basically with the mobility rate, we typically look at a child that starts at the beginning of the school year staying until the end of that school year and hopefully returning the next school year. And a lot of times what we saw when we first started out at Clay was we would have children, let's say 100 children starting in August. But by May of the following year, we probably had maybe 40 children still in the seat. Well, if a child is moving that much, there's not an ability for them to really stay focused in a classroom setting. If they're going from place to place, you need consistency to be able to grow. And so our goal is to work with the families, because it's a lot of times the families are looking for resources to be stable. And if I can't find the resource, I'm in a resource desert, a marginalized community where very much, there's nothing there really to work with. I'm gonna try to move somewhere else. I'll move with a cousin, I'll move with a friend, I'll move around to find what I need to be able to thrive or survive in my situation. Our goal is when we find out that a family is in a place of challenge to try to find out what those challenges are and work very closely with them to eliminate them. So I'll give you an example. One of the families that we had one time at Clay, she had not been employed for some years. She finally was able to be employed. She had her job for about 2.5 weeks. She was on her way to work and got stranded on the highway. And in the process of being stranded on the highway, the first person she called was who? Her mentor. When she called her mentor, the mentor went to work like, we got to keep you with this job. Hold on. So she went and found a gas can, went got gas, went on the highway, put gas into her car, gave her $10 and told her, please let me know if you need anything else. That mom got to work. And from there, once she got her first paycheck, she was going on from there. But it's those kind of things. Most people don't have support systems. They've exhausted them. And so they're doing everything they possibly can to keep going. And when you get frustrated, sometimes getting out of bed, getting your child to school, those kind of things don't click at that moment. So we're working from our whole team has been trained in trauma-informed care because we want them to understand what is the reality they're dealing in with. They're talking to these families that are calling with problems and so, or with challenges that they're going through. Our goal is to support them where they are and help them get to where they really want to be. And that's basically what we've been doing.
So if you were in charge of the city, what would be the
whole
first?
City.
Yeah, the whole city.
Thank you.
all the money, everything. What would be the first thing that you would implement in order to help eliminate the challenges that you have that lead to student mobility?
I think the first thing is you have to see where people are. Like, we can't come in assuming that we know what people need. I think that is probably the biggest disservice we can do, is thinking we know what people need. But talking with them and finding out where they are. A lot of times what we don't realize is a lot of the people that we work with, they have the greatest aspirations or intentions or want the greatest things, just like all of us, right? But sometimes along the way, it's kind of like, have you ever heard a song on the radio and the music that's playing, you don't like the song, and when you hear it, you're like, oh, I don't like that song, you change the channel. And it keeps playing because it gets a lot of airplay. Even though as bad as it is, it gets a lot of airplay. After a while, you find yourself, well, it's just 5 minutes, I can listen through it, it won't take long. And maybe by a month or so later, you find yourself singing the very song you didn't like. For a lot of our families, when you're living in areas that lack resources, that's kind of what it's like, you know? You first hear it, you don't like it. And then you try to change it, and it doesn't always change as quickly, right? But you just, okay, it's just 3 or 5 minutes, I'll listen through and it's over. And before you know it, you're singing that song. And so it has to be somebody that comes along and gives you some information, gives you some insight, gives you some encouragement, tells you, I see in you what could happen. And from there, that's when you start singing different songs and listen to a different station and different music, when you know what's possible because somebody introduced it to you and helped you believe in it.
That's incredibly well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is centered around mobility as well, because you talked about it a lot. And I've been a recipient of many of your services, and I can really appreciate the Urban League because you do make a difference in the community.
Yes.
But I really want people to just be honest about the issue of mobility is affordable housing.
Right.
If I could be the leader of St. Louis for a day, it would be looking at affordable housing. I think it would affect your services as well as SLPS. Right. And a lot of people are looking for a place to stay, and we've lost almost 10,000 students. We have probably close to, people are saying 5, 6, 7,000 homeless children, but because they have nowhere to live, no decent place to live, and I really wish St. Louis was a family-friendly place,
yes,
but it's not. And I'm just wondering, when your families come, how do you keep in touch with them after the program is over?
So we are, basically they keep in contact with our mentors. So we still have mentors that get phone calls from people that used to be in the district, that their children have gone to high school or have graduated, and they still reach back and call our team and let them know what's going on. Hey, how you doing? I haven't heard from you. Let me let you know what's going on. The relationship they build is very fundamental. Relationships are everything. We all know that, right? And relationships make a difference. And so a lot of times, even even when our team is working with people, we try to reach out, but with so much turnover and going so fast, it's only one mentor in the school, and that one mentor does the best they can to keep up with those families all the time. They make phone calls weekly, really daily, because the daily calls are for attendance. But then they also reach out to find out, okay, who do I need to follow up with that I've already given? Did they go to the workshops? Our team has gone to workshops with people for their orientation for get a job, or they've gone to the housing classes that we've had at Urban League, where they've inspired them to come in. You get a $50 gift card if you come to hear about how you could buy a home or how you can improve your credit. They go and sit with them. They don't just send them or tell them to go. They'll go with them to inspire them to be there. And they stay in contact with them. And so probably after a couple years, once they get out of the school, a lot of them reach back, but we have not put a pipeline in place to kind of see what happens 10 years down the road, because we're still building the success around what we're trying to do, help families be able to be stable and help improve attendance at this point. But our long-range goal is to be able to capture the data of what it looks like 5 or 10 years down the road.
And this is my last question. As a result of all the data that you've collected, how do you see parents becoming more encouraged to use their voices? Because it seems that our population, they don't feel like they really have a voice. And even with the students, they don't feel like they're being heard. So after your conversations, after all the helping and all that, how do you help students, or how do you see parents becoming more boisterous about their needs? Because clearly people haven't been listening. Your organization has been listening, but the city hasn't been listening to what the needs are, because we continue to go on this cycle every year.
We keep doing it just like you all, one person at a time. You keep talking every day to everybody that you can, and you keep encouraging, and you keep supporting. And sometimes, people really start listening, and it shows by them participating more, coming to more of the events at the school, coming to more of the things that parents are inspired to come and be a part of. You see them showing up, because at one time you may not see as much engagement and involvement. And when you start seeing more engagement and involvement, that's how you know you're starting to make a connection. That's how you know you're starting to create a space where they're starting to listen and be heard. And now they're starting to talk back and ask questions. Maybe they show up and ask more questions. That's how you know it takes time, right? Just like if you are going to the gym every day, you might say, I'm gonna go 3 times a week. Well, it takes time to get there. If we've been doing something different for 20, 30, 40 years, it may take 20, 30, 40 weeks before we really get a perfection around it, right? And so the same is true. If you've seen behaviors for years, we have to give it time to catch up. We work as fast as we can, but we recognize that it does take time. But if we keep the message consistent and we stay patient, but we still persist, we do see more follow us along the way.
Okay, and this is my last question. I'm sorry, board members. Have you done, or are you mapping the places where your clients are finally finding housing or finally wind up? Because I'm sure it's in certain areas, because
yes. So even like right now, what you can see at Jefferson Preservation Square, they're doing a lot of remodeling and building. And in that space, a lot of our families are being relocated, right? And so you're seeing some attrition or some mobility around that, because they're being moved out of the area to have the space rehabbed. So that one we kind of recognize. We also had another space at Laclede where there were families moved out of a housing complex and asked to go somewhere else. And so when those kind of things happen, it's a little bit harder, because our team then has to work to try to help find stable spaces for those families to be. But what we do is we continue to try to work with them. We try to support them. We find the resources that we can. We encourage them to follow up on them, because sometimes you give them, but if you don't follow up, they're like, oh, I meant to call, but I didn't get a chance to. You have to have somebody that's willing to mentor and coach you around this too. And that's where our team really shows up with the patience to be able to do that. So the team that's hired to work in education in school can do what they're hired to do, help support in academics. We help support them to be stable and be self-sufficient outside of the school. So what our people can do in the school is really make magic happen for education for our kids.
Ms. Hubbard.
first, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. So I got out my phone's calculator, and so SLPS is contributing about 60% of the cost of this program.
Yes.
How much? I had a really good question.
It's okay.
What I want to know is you have the, what, 300,000 that y'all are putting into the program.
Correct.
But then when you connect families to resources, is that more of Urban League program?
So yes, about half.
Going into the families.
Yes, about half and half. So a lot of the stuff that we do connect to is back to like food distribution. For instance, when people had utility problems, we utilized LIHEAP. We utilized the Clean Slate program for people who had bills over $1,000. Things like that. We are not counting in that extra 300,000. Those are the resources that we're given for it's the city of St. Louis. So we're supporting families through the money that's for the city, right? But the whole goal is to support a family to be stable. That way we can really see the work happen for the children in the schools. If they don't have to show up wondering where they're going to lay their head, what they're going to eat for dinner, what's going to be next in their life, they have some stability to come home to. That's what makes the difference for this. And so we fundraise to find it, just like you know how you all are supporting us. We're working to support as well, because we recognize even before we got the contract, we were in the schools for 4 years fundraising to be in the schools. So we did it for 4 years before the contract came along. And so this just gives us the opportunity to continue serving at the best possible level for the children and families.
And what % of Urban League's budget would you say your contribution here is? Would you know?
Okay, well, wait a minute, math wasn't my thing here. People are, but I mean, 300,000 is a very, maybe a smaller amount than, of course, if it's $1 million, but they got 60 programs within an organization. So if we have 60 programs within an organization and you're thinking about other things that may come up, I maybe 5% or 3% of the budget, but I still say 1% to support families and children is worth every dime.
Okay, and now I'll add some more math that if you I did 62 schools. I'm not sure if that number is right, but it would be 855,000, and then more fives.
Yes.
So thank you for the work that you're doing in the schools where you are.
Thank you.
And Ms. Donna is right. We need affordable housing for families, and we need our city's leadership to take it seriously.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you all for your time this day. Thank you.
Questions? Any other questions? Thank you. Once again, I think part of the biggest focus and what you said, Dr. Bender, I'm sure we laughed, but you did learn a lot. This was a crash course for you going into student services, but it's not something that can be done alone, and it's not something that the district can do alone by any means. What Urban League is being able to do, and part of the funding that we want to make sure people understand is that's more so staff. You guys really are leaning in and providing a huge support system. I saw Brian Hill was put up as one of the schools that you guys were in, and I had the opportunity to actually see one or two of your staff actually working, and the principal was really, like leaning in saying, Ms. Cousins, we will be lost without, the staff of what Urban League was actually able to do because of the attendance and how that staff person was actually doing a lot and helping with the attendance. I'm just curious, and I don't know if this is a question to you, Dr. Bender, or to you, but how are the schools actually identified? I'm looking at the schools that's on the list. How are we identifying the schools that Urban League are actually going into?
The first two, I can say that we started out at Grace Hill Settlement House before we merged with Urban League in 2020. And the way we chose those schools is it was centrally located around our hub, which was the Water Tower location, so 63107. So that's how Clay was having the most challenges at that time. That's why it was chosen first. And then the next was over right 2 blocks away from the hub, Brian Hill, and that's how those two schools were chosen. When the contract came available, from what I remember, it was the district that kind of chose what schools we would go into at that time.
Yeah, what we've done in my time is really looking at like attendance, discipline, looking at those different things like that. And one of the things I'm really excited about that we will be leaving is we're creating a visual of all the schools and who has a little bit, who has this, who has that. And it will be a big visual that will be on the Student Support Services conference room wall, because when they do their work, when they get together and talk about services, they need to really be able to see that visual and who else needs added support. I think sometimes when you make it into a visual, I mean, we hear from schools, it's quite common to get calls saying, we need this, we need that. But really creating a visual there so that the team next year can really keep that focused. We're looking at getting our therapists in and trying to make sure we're taking care of everybody at least a little bit.
And the last thing, I know the board had asked about it before, but have we looking at student services and Dr. Deidre Murray's office to see how do we work those two offices together with Urban League, yes, to ensure that you guys are working aligned with each other instead of the silo concern?
We do work together. A lot of times our team will reach out when we find out a child is in transition to SIT. And when we reach out to students in transition, they typically are able to get the cabs together for students or to be able to support getting whatever services they may need to stabilize in that process as well. So we do work with Dr. McMurray's group.
So I just wanted to let it be known, the board wanted this presentation to come before us because oftentimes we hear about this going on in different schools, but we wanted the public to hear like the work that's actually been done. The board needed to have a clear understanding of the work truly that Urban League is doing, the collaboration between Urban League and SLPS, and the outstanding work that we all are trying to do, and we understand the need that is being, the need that's happening within all of our schools, but we cannot do it alone. The schools can't do it alone, our teachers can't do it alone, the principals cannot do it alone. There is much needed resources out there that we need for success. So we thank you guys for your presentation. And on to you, Dr. Williams.
So before Dr. Crenshaw and Dr. Bender, before you leave the podium, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Bender. She's been doing incredible work as our interim deputy superintendent for student support services, and there's a lot of laughter and joy that we're centering, but the intentionality of the work, I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to recognize it in this very short period of time, stepping in and really leading with excellence, so thank you. Dr. Crenshaw, it's my first time hearing you, the passion, the persistence, the joy, centering the voices of the families we serve. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you for allowing us to serve. Thank you.
Dr. Bender, you're not going anywhere, just.
Get a break and then I'll be back.
So thank you so much. I'd like to continue with our presentations this evening. I'm going to welcome our Associate Superintendent for Innovation, School Turnaround, and Partnerships to the podium. Dr. Isaac Pollock will take us through just our charter sponsorship, give us an update on Confluence Academies and the work that's happening there. Thank you, Dr. Pollock.
Good evening. Tonight I would like to walk through just a few slides, providing a brief history and update around the charter sponsorship agreement that we are walking into starting July 1st with Confluence Academies. So tonight, this should be pretty brief. I would like to just go through some sponsorship definitions, the application and decision timeline, and then procedures, what you can expect as we walk into this relationship. So first off, just want to re-identify and clarify that charter schools are separate from the school district. They are operated by they are authorized by a charter sponsor, and then they are operated by a separate school board from this school board. There are three different types of sponsors. They can be school boards of accredited districts, qualified universities, and then the Missouri Charter Public School Commission. Each sponsor is expected to set their own policies and procedures for sponsorship. And then the charter sponsor does receive 1.5% of the state and local funding, up to this year at $181,470.59 in order to fulfill the statutory responsibilities. 90% of that must be spent on the charter school sponsorship responsibilities or back to the charter school. So to be clear, there are protections both ways. So we are not, as the sponsor, its agents and employees are not liable for acts of omission or other items fiscally responsible for the charter school. We are responsible for oversight of the charter school and to make sure that they are performing. That is our responsibility. And so there are protections built into the statute for that. Currently, there are, this is the list of sponsors both in St. Louis and in Kansas City. You can see that over the past few years, there's been a reduction in charter schools that have been sponsored by universities and an increase in charter schools that have been sponsored by the Missouri Charter Public School Commission. In addition, Kansas City has a few schools that it is now sponsoring, and this is the first charter school that we are looking to sponsor. Confluence has 5 school locations, including South City Academy, which they call Confluence South City, Confluence Preparatory Academy, their high school, Grand Center Arts Academy, which is a 6 through 12, so has both. Old North Academy, which is now a pre-K through 2. This is actually from their application. It's now a pre-K through 2 site. And Aspire, which is, sorry, the other way around. Old North, which is a pre-K through 8, and Aspire, which is a pre-K through 2. So this walks through the timeline that we did take Confluence through the application procedure. For those of you who are here in the fall, you remember this, I'm sure. We went through their proposal. We asked for additional documentation. We went through a data review. We held an interview with their staff and then made a recommendation to advance to part 2. From there, the members of the board did meet with them to measure the board capacity. We did an analysis, an enrollment and alignment analysis. Final recommendation went to the board December 7th. The board approved this December 13th. So if you recall, this was the slide. It was recommended for approval with reservations. There were a couple of reservations that we did bring up. So the first was that attendance did not meet the targets, and I think attendance for all of the institutions in the city were suffering at that time from COVID, and so this was something that we wanted to make sure that we kept aware of as we moved forward. The second was that graduation rates did not meet the target at one of the 2 schools, and so from that we had a conversation around equity, and we built in a requirement for an outside equity study that we would fund through the sponsorship funds from an institution to come in and help Confluence to measure their equity across their schools. And finally, we brought concerns around their debt exposure. They do hold around $27 million worth of debt for their because they own several of their buildings. So we built in here a request for an aggressive repayment plan to reduce their debt exposure. So after that, we did then go to DESE, which required us to go through several steps there. We updated our handbook, which was based on the Kansas City's public school handbook and charter contract. We submitted that January 31st. DESE requested additional information that we submitted March 10th. We did receive approval to resume our sponsorship duties, and then we submitted letters from all 3 institutions, from Confluence, Mizzou, and from SLPS. And then our very last step is finalizing our contract with Confluence. DESE has said that it is approved. We just need to submit the contract. It needs to be submitted before June 30th. And myself and our legal counsel have been working closely with Confluence to hammer out the last details. So what this will look like in the coming year, in the coming years, so there are 4 years left on the current contract agreement. So we will provide a timeline. We've already provided a timeline of data submissions to Confluence. We will be attending their board meetings monthly. We will be visiting their schools monthly, looking at 4 specific areas. They are finance, academics, operations, finance and administration. We are we will then be providing a status update to the Confluence Board biannually, twice a year. We'll be providing an overall evaluation update to this board annually, and then, or as requested, and then status updates to DESE. So currently, DESE is requiring Mizzou to provide monthly updates on Confluence. This is holdover from both Confluence's performance and Mizzou's performance. DESE has informed us that they have not said that they will, but they may request us to continue providing monthly updates. In addition, so potential partnership opportunities, so we still have, we built in our offerings of professional development from us to them that we may offer them to use our services at a fee if needed. And then we are, of course, exploring shared back office services, including transportation. I do just want to pause here and say that this is the rationale for the sponsorship. I think that one thing that has come out of the citywide plan has been the clear call for moral leadership from this board overall for all of the schools in the city. That has looked like coordination at times and partnership at times, but in this case, given the fact that Confluence was without a sponsor, we were looking at the possible dissolution of 2,500 kids all at once, that we did decide that you all decided to step in and accept their sponsorship. I think that does speak to the moral responsibility that to educating all kids in the city and to holding the keys to the decisions around this charter system. So I think that that was the rationale for why, and I do think that it is one thing that has come out of the citywide plan has been levels of trust that have allowed that to move forward. So with that, I'd like to pause here and answer any questions that the board may have.
Remind me, I don't think you mentioned. If you did, I apologize. When is their sponsorship up for renewal with SE? I know it's on their 5-year sponsorship, and they're partway into that.
Yeah, so they're through year 1. Okay. So in 4 years from now, that's when we will have to either revoke or renew. Now, the data will actually be based on only 4 years of data, 1 year with Mizzou and then the next 3, because we have to make a recommendation to DESE by November of that academic year.
Thanks.
Ms. Jones.
Since the board decided to sponsor Confluence, I want to know during these monthly or the data checks, will you be evaluating the grades or of the students, or are you just gonna, you keep saying 4 years is that you will be evaluating to see if you're gonna keep doing this? So I would think if it was critical enough for the other people to stop their sponsorship, that this would be a month by month obligation. And then you had transportation on here. Are you saying the SLPS is going to provide them with transportation as well?
So I'll answer the second question first, if that's okay. In terms of transportation, there's nothing finalized. There's nothing actually been. We've been having conversations. The previous superintendent and several charter schools have been having conversations for several years about the potential for shared transportation. This goes back to when transportation has been an issue for us for years. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're providing transportation, but it could mean that we are negotiating together to a bus provider or coordinating in some way. So nothing has been sort of set in stone or even put on the table yet. I think that what that was just meant to point out is that there are opportunities for additional partnerships available, and that was one that has come up. In terms of what does it look like, so the decision to renew is really based on one measure, which is APR. So what our performance contract, what Mizzou's performance contract with them, and what ours is specifically 70% APR, the same measure that we are held to, is the measure that we will be holding the charter school accountable to. The monthly checks will be an opportunity for us to give feedback on a rubric of what we're observing when we go see it. Based on their performance, if they have 2 years under 70%, that does put them on probationary status. And once they're on probationary with us, once they're on probationary status, a decision to revoke can be made before the 5 years are up. But it is based on the APR.
But do you have a right to, since they have a separate board, to even look at their data?
Yes, that is our responsibility, in fact.
Thank you.
Ms. Hubbard?
Can you explain the $27 million of debt and the district is not responsible for it if they're not able to meet that expectation? What happens to the debt? What happens to the buildings? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So their debt is actually not held by the institution itself. It's held by Friends of Confluence, a third party similar to our SLPS Foundation. So they've used that, they've leveraged that, and they're paying their debt back to that institution. The institution is actually the one that is holding that. So we are not responsible in any way for any financial shortfalls of their institution. That is clear in statute and is clear in our contract as well. If we do choose to close them, if they close on their own, that has happened actually before, and it goes into it's other people's responsibility. I don't know. It's when charter schools close, a lot of times the ones who own the building will then foreclose on the building and then sell it to someone else. Similar to, I think, what has happened with LaSalle recently, that the LaSalle charter school itself didn't own the building. Another organization owned the building. When the LaSalle closed, the third organization is now looking for a buyer for that building.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Pollack.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pollack. Appreciate it. We're going to continue. I'd like to invite Dr. Josh Henning, who currently serves as our Director Coordinator of Workforce Development. But in the 23-24 school year, July 1, we will welcome Dr. Henning as our Associate Superintendent of College and Career Readiness. So thank you, Dr. Henning, for providing a college and career readiness, career and technical education overview this evening with very focused strategic numbers around where we are and what we're celebrating. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, and good evening, everybody. So let's just jump right in. This is the agenda. We're going to look at some of our programs, our CCR programs, our CTE programs from this last year. And then we're going to spend a little time looking at our 2023 graduates, some of the initial data. I will warn you, we have a lot more detailed data to come out, but that will come out when we finish with our core data report with the Office of Accountability. And then finally, we're going to look ahead to next year, some of the really exciting things that are going on in CCR and CTE. But if I could pause just in this moment, this has been kind of brought up a number of times tonight. I really cannot emphasize enough the work and the career, and she has no idea that I'm getting ready to say this, that Dr. Beth Bender has done. She stepped up in a way to serve not only as the Associate Superintendent of College and Career Readiness over CTE, 60-plus teachers, counselors all over the district. She was then asked to additionally serve as the interim Deputy Superintendent of Student Support Services. And she still was pretty funny in all of that. So she leads from the heart. She, if you've ever had a conversation with her, you know that her decisions really are based on what's best for kids. She's retiring, and I think it would be very appropriate for us to celebrate the career of this spectacular educator. Okay, I'm going to pay for that. She's telling me right now you will pay for that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I certainly agree. And
Yeah.
so you have the green thumbs up for me.
Okay, so let's jump right in. One of our programs that we have in CCR is our Early College Academy. So as you can see here, in 2021-22, we had 30 juniors, 26 seniors, and of those graduating seniors, 26 earned associate's degrees. Last year, We had 25 juniors, 29 seniors, with 27 of those earning associate's degrees. I'll address that number, that discrepancy real quick. One student decided to go into an aviation program, so the associate's degree didn't line up with what he was doing. He's actually going to SIU Carbondale next year. The other student went through some very difficult personal problems and was able to complete her high school graduation, but did not earn the associate's degree, but still had credits that transferred. The Learn and Earn internship program this last year had about 530 students, which was really exciting. This is the second year of the program. We were able to expand into the summer. We have interns working right now, continuing with additional funding that came from the city that was accepted by you all, which is really exciting. As you know, the summertime is a critical time in our city, and having our young people engaging in work and internships is a really exciting thing. Our college admissions advisors, this was a program that we do. We have some individuals that are work for St. Louis Public Schools. Those are the college admissions specialists. But then we partner with Mizzou, and they provide us with a number of young people fresh out of college who engage with our scholars at the high school level and provide supports to get them into colleges and different careers and other opportunities. Moving right along, our freshman success team. So each high school has a freshman success team. This is a really important thing that we focus on because we know that 9th grade year is critical. That really is the make or break year in a lot of ways of setting up our students. It doesn't mean they can't recover. It's just so difficult if they don't earn the credits, they don't have the GPA early on. So we focus intensely on trying to support students in that. We did see a little bit of a dip this year in the numbers, as you can see. However, some of those numbers will actually come up as some of those students are engaged in summer school and they complete those courses. We'll see their GPAs and some of their completion rates actually come up. And then finally, for CCR, we had the first annual SLPS Slate Career Fair. We had 200 slots. We actually had 150 students that showed up. These were seniors from all over the district who knew they weren't going directly into college. And so what we did is we paired them at this job fair, this career fair, with businesses that could provide them with potential gainful employment or employment that would provide them with opportunities to attend college. For the CTE side, so these were some of our general numbers. Like I said, we're still gathering how many students earned their industry recognized credentials, how many are labeled as completers. We're working with Deputy Van Noy's department on gathering all those numbers, and we will publish those either later this month or in July, and all that will be provided through the Office of Institutional Advancement. So those are the numbers, 27 different programs, 2,200 total students enrolled, 62 teachers, and then all 11 high schools had these opportunities. A few things that we were developing this year that are going to continue on into next year. One is we are aligning all of our curriculum with those IRCs. So at the end of each year, students will receive the opportunity to take these assessments to earn this credential. And so what we're doing is we're backward design. We're building our lessons now in the CTE department to where we're kind of prepping our students to be more successful on those IRCs. So that's one focus of our curriculum redesign. We're also collaborating with the academic office and their leaders to roll out K-12 computer science pathway for the entire district. So that's going to be through Project Lead the Way, and we're working with kind of their department, especially with the high schools from the CTE side. And then finally, we have partnerships with Ranken and Boeing that are developing. So we have about 32 or 33 students that are signed up for construction at Ranken. These are from all 11 schools across the district. So this is exciting. They will provide an instructor. That has been the piece that we've been missing. We had a program at Roosevelt, couldn't find an instructor. We had a program at Beaumont, couldn't find an instructor. But through this partnership, they were able to provide that instructor and the space. And so this is really exciting work that's going on there. And then, of course, Boeing, the work of them kind of setting up shop at Gateway and really providing our students a training opportunity that it's been a little too far for our students in the past to go all the way to where their training facility was. And so they reached out and said, we're going to bring it to you. So that's a really exciting program, and that work started this year, and then by spring of next year, we'll have that rolled out. Graduates. So here's our graduate numbers. Like I said, you will have a more detailed numbers related to how many went to college, how many were enlisted in the military, how many went straight into the workforce, how many went into the workforce related to their CTE pathway. All that information, we like to call that the Brian data. So there's a guy in our department who loves spreadsheets, God bless him, and he pulls all that data and then works with Deputy Van Noy's department to make sure all that data is correct and then is reported out to the state. So overall, these are the numbers. These are the total number of graduates. Enrollment was a little bit down in terms of seniors this year from last year, a little over 100 less students total enrolled. But these numbers are actually continuing. We're graduating, we're finding a few more. So like I said, this is kind of hot off the presses. But as we scour the data, you know, we find 5 here from a school or something like that need to be moved on. Students in summer school, just to be clear, will not count towards these numbers. They actually count towards next year's numbers. That's different because during COVID, we were given an exception that allowed us to count those back for the year before, but we're not allowed to do that anymore. And then here's our scholarship numbers right now. You can see them broken down by school. This is not complete. So we are still getting, I was literally mowing the lawn this last weekend and a kid walked up to me and tapped me and said, Mr. Henning, I just got the BJC Scholarship Award. I just found out about it. He's a student over at, CSMB. And he was so excited about it, but we haven't captured that number yet. So I just want you to know, this is the initial number. It is higher from that last year with fewer seniors, which is good. And we do expect that it's going to go up from here. And then finally, looking ahead, Early College Academy, we're expanding. Typically, we try to hit about 30 students. Right now, we have 42 students, juniors, that would be coming in next year, which is really exciting. We have targeted summer support for students from comprehensive high schools. So we were able to expand the schools that are participating in Early College Academy, but we want to continue that process. So we have students right now, sophomores, well, rising sophomores, that are engaged in intensive tutoring work around the AccuPlacer, which is the assessment that they have to score well on in order to get into the community college. And so again, we are focusing on those 3 schools for that program. The Rankin Construction Center, like I said, will be opening about 32, 33 students. We actually have a waiting list for it. So if we do have some changes in that, we'll have no problem in keeping that number up. And again, those are just the juniors. The next school year, those will move up to seniors there, and then we'll have a new group of juniors coming in with the potential, with that partnership, of maybe looking at adding a program or 2 over there as well, if that's something that leadership would like to pursue. And then, of course, the Boeing Aviation, you all have seen this before, but really exciting that our students would have this opportunity coming out of high school once they finish the program, $24 an hour, right out of high school, graduation, full benefits. I actually just had the opportunity this last weekend to go to the Boeing. Every 5 years they do a Family and Friends Day, and I was able to go out and tour the facility out there. I wanted to build airplanes. So just a really exciting program for our young people. And then finally, we're rolling out, our department has been asked to roll out, take the lead on the rollout of the Rethink Ed, the social emotional learning partnership. So what we are going to do is provide training for our school leaders, for teachers, for support staff. So it's this very intensive rollout. We're working very closely with technology to make sure that all the services, the check-ins, the daily check-ins that students get to do, that all that stuff works properly. So really thankful for Cheryl, Deputy Van Noy and her office in supporting that. And then our Beaumont CTE programs, we've boosted those from 52 last year, this last school year, to right now we have 140 students. Well, when I did the slide, we had 140 students listed for next year for the programs that are over there. So really exciting work there. And then the freshman success teams, we want to kind of spend a little time focusing on those processes at the school level. We're looking at creating some quarterly benchmarks and some meeting protocols. I'll be honest, some of that stuff, given some of the struggles that happened, principals had to decide, what am I going to focus on? Am I going to make sure this class is covered, or are we going to have our meeting? So it was a tough year for some of those things. So we want to make sure we put some protocols and supports in place that can help them to make sure that we catch those freshmen. And then finally, the Learn and Earn program, emerging really in the region as an industry leader. We have a local school district that is requesting to model after ours. We have another school district in the state that has reached out, that is looking, kind of saying, how are you guys doing this? What are your processes? How are you making this work? So that's been really exciting. I had a great example today. I had lunch with a young man who's actually interning in our HR office. And this young person graduated from college with a degree in human resources, whatever that degree is. And he put out 300 applications, 300, and got nothing. And the feedback he got was, you do not have any practical experience on your resume. He spent 4 days in our HR department and has an interview lined up for next week. Like, it was that quick. He just updated his resume and boom, that quick. That's a tell of what the industry is looking for, is they are looking for young people to have experience, and for us to be able to potentially provide our seniors that coming fresh out of high school is invaluable. So really exciting. And at this point, if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer. And if not, I have a great backup.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
On your looking ahead sheet.
Yes.
On the open Rankin Construction Center, I hate the fact that, I like it, I love it, but I hate the fact that it's 11th grade. Is there any way you can possibly look in the future, maybe starting at the 9th grade? And I would love if we can get rid of that waiting list. I mean, if, I don't know what you have to, what processes you have to go through, but I mean, I would just love that. And if, I don't know if, I hope I'm not out of order. If there's anything I can do to help, just give me a call.
Yeah, no.
I mean, as long as I make sure I'm not out of order. So.
You're not out of order on my end.
Well,
I can't speak for the
You're
board.
out of order, sir. No, go ahead.
I just want to make sure, I'm just making sure I'm doing the process right.
Yes, sir.
But yeah,
Yes, sir.
I'm really proud of you for this, man. I mean, good job.
Yeah, it's really exciting work, and like I said, I have the unique opportunity of standing on the shoulders of a giant. Sorry to call you giant, but I will say it is absolutely, if we can find a way to get those 9th graders, those 10th graders, I think that's critical. We're meeting, always trying to figure out how to expand those workforce opportunities. There are some hesitations with the construction industry, as you know, with some of the younger students. But if it is a training environment like that, I don't see why we couldn't begin to explore that.
I mean, that's when I started in 9th grade. So.
Absolutely.
Good job.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones, I'm sorry.
My question is in regards to reaching back. How can the students, or is there some type of system in place where the students can reach back maybe in a couple of years and perhaps get those resources? As this young man that came back to HR, and he was able to get employment almost right away. So if a student graduates from the CTE program or something else and they're having difficulty, who do they go back to in the district to talk to?
Yeah, so this is something that is, we're definitely trying to work on. So this originally started with an idea around having an alumni just kind of email server that we can reach out and we can connect and check in with those students, right? But then what developed was we do need something for our young people. And I think this conversation has come up with the board before of potentially looking at like a workforce center or something like along those lines where we are that hub. We can have partners and we can be that location that allows for students to, graduates to actually receive those kinds of services you're talking about. So, Ms. Jones, that is, yes, absolutely. We want to pursue that, but we definitely want to kind of work hand in hand with the board and with, district leadership in making some of those moves.
There seems to be a growing call for the trades because of AI. And I guess I want to know, who in the organization in SLPS would students, staff, or whomever would contact to perhaps make some suggestions or to assist a company wanted to help with developing some different types of trades? Just,
Yeah, so that would be our CTE department. And so we actually just met with, I don't want to say the name, but a major industry leader in cybersecurity came in and just said, we want to connect. We want your students to come out and see what we're doing. We want to come to your classrooms. We want to, get their wisdom on what they know and share ours. And so I think that department is definitely the avenue to start with. And it seems like everything ends up in CCR in a lot of ways anyway. So we can definitely facilitate that conversation in our
when
department.
school opens back up again, will there be some type of brochure, just say for instance, if I have a senior, or not a senior or a ninth grader, that wanted to understand which schools, what programs they have and what have you, where can I go? Will that, all of those programs be listed?
Yes. So you can start by coming to, when we get the details figured out about our back to school fair, CTE and CCR will have a booth, and we will make sure to have that. That's the first opportunity we have to engage the community in that. And then as those students come back to register at the schools, every school is provided with that list of here's what's available in your school, and here's what's available across the district. So there are some things that students can go to other places like Beaumont or Rankin or Gateway in the evenings. So some of those opportunities will all be listed out.
One last question then. So in all the advertisement that I've seen lately, I see all the little children smiling, the young children, and they talk about SLPS. And of course I have my sign in the yard. But the thing about it is the older students that we're talking about right now, when you talk about the advertisement, you don't really talk about Boeing and all these other partnerships that you're developing. So is that a possibility?
Yes, absolutely. I know we're actually transitioning, as I'm transitioning now to this role, there's a new person transitioning into my current role as workforce coordinator. That person is already very excited about and much more apt at using social media and some of those things and has been meeting with the department. So absolutely, I think we can get the word out.
Ms. Hubbard?
This was such a great presentation. Thank you. But could you list some of the CTE programs that we have? I know Clyde Miller has the culinary one, but what else do we have going on?
Yeah, so we have culinary, there's construction, there is, we have the medical assistance program. We have the CNA, so medical assistance is new for this year, but we've traditionally had the CNA, so we've made some alterations based on kind of what students need and what the industry needs. So that's what CTE does, is we kind of make those adjustments as we go. There are a number of programs that are connected with Project Lead the Way. And so some of those are focused on like engineering or biomedical science. We have business, thank you. We have business all over. She's throwing the answers into my ear right now. We have, what are some more? There's like 30 different pathways. Yeah. Yes, right. Machining, hospitality. Cisco. Mhm. Yep. Yep. Cybersecurity. So we actually have a cybersecurity program going on during the summer as well, which is really exciting. That was our Teacher of the Year for CTE is actually running that program.
Thank you.
Did I pass the test, Ms. Hubbard?
It wasn't a test.
Okay.
Miss
I
Sadie.
really didn't know.
Thank you so much for your presentation. This is all really exciting work. Going back to Ms. Jones's point, honing in on those 9th grade students outside of the brochure and making sure students have sort of reference material. Do we have, and I know we have our college admissions advisors and counselors, but is there another like mentor or point of contact in the school that could be paired with each and every 9th grader so that we're not missing any of those 9th graders? Because as you mentioned, that's such a crucial point in time for students as they're trying to build their pathway for the remainder of their high school career.
I'm a tag team on this one.
Yeah, so there's two things I would add. First is that we do tell our graduates, you may graduate, but you can always come home. We run in our office here Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays throughout the summer, a CCR center. So if you need help filling out FAFSA, because now you finally realize, things like that, we provide those services. But on the early end, the 9th grade, those, there was an initiative started a couple years ago called Love of Learning. So 7th grade year, the idea is that every 7th grader, and we say every because what happens is the mouthy little Beths get left behind 7th grade year to this trip, and 8th grade year and 9th grade year, and then we wonder why 10th grade she's off the chain. So 7th grade, they go to businesses. It could be going to courthouse, going to the convention center, learning, you know, they'll pull up to the hospital and think, oh, we're going to learn about doctors and nurses. Well, there's about 500 other trades within a hospital. So really educating them on that. 8th grade year, they do go to a junior college to visit. And then 9th grade year, we send all the students to a 4-year local university just to tour, just to kind of build that flavor and give those experiences. So those are the signature experiences that kind of get started. And then in 8th grade also, they start their ICAP, which is their individual, there's letters for it, comprehensive plans, academic plans. See, she knew them. And that's where the kids start writing. You know, they fill out surveys, and they may think they want to be an accountant, but everything on their survey is indicating they're a real people person and they want to be out and about, and helping students learn which careers and how those things tie together. So that kind of work starts big time 8th grade year.
Thank you.
I knew that answer. I just wanted to see if she remembered.
One more question for you. With the NGA coming in here in North St. Louis, what are they going to do for our district, or have you been in communication with them about what they will be doing for us?
Yeah, so we have, actually a few years ago, we had a partnership kind of start with them, and it's taken a while for them to get up off the ground. Obviously, it's taken time to build it up, but they're very excited to connect with us. Right now, most of our connection has actually been with different agencies and businesses that kind of help bridge the gap between what they want from a potential employee and what we have. And so some of these organizations that we're connected with, that we feed some of our students into, that provide them that training, is kind of what we're focused on right now. But they're very open to that. So there are some basic conversations that are going on now, but I think as they start to open up, it'll expand more.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Henning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. In all seriousness, it is important to recognize excellence in service. Thank you, Dr. Bender, for the work that you've done for the past 15 years here in our district, and I know that you will continue to do even in retirement, Dr. Bender. So thank you, and thank you, Dr. Henning, for recognizing how we as a school district support our leaders and continue to grow our leaders. That's critically important to an organization's success. Our last presentation this evening is from our HR department. I do want to take a moment Ms. Karen Shelton Henry, our benefits coordinator, is not normally with us in the evening, and so I know I just want to take a moment and recognize her service of 17 years. She told me earlier that she was retiring at some point, but she continues to serve with excellence and just spot on in ensuring that our employees have the right benefits and the right options for their own health care. So thank you so much. Let me welcome that team. Mr. Charles Burton, our Chief Human Resources Officer, will provide an introduction to the team.
Good evening, members of the board, community, and staff. I'm Charles Burton. I'm your Chief Human Resource Officer. Again, with us tonight is Karen Shelton Henry, who's the real star of our benefits program. And with her is Mike Hilker, who's with USI, our benefits broker. Tonight's agenda is to kind of talk through this evening's the benefit proposal for the year 2024. In contrast to our district, which is on a fiscal year that starts July 1 through June 30th, our benefits is on an annual or a calendar year, which starts January and goes through December 31st. So this proposal is for benefits starting January 2024. Having said that, there we go. The agenda for tonight, we're going to talk about the marketing process for this year. We went out to bid. We'll talk about medical coverage as well as the infertility coverage the board asked about last year. We'll talk about pharmacy funding, the wellness program, which I also think there were some questions about from the board last year that we'll cover, as well as our employee assistance program, which the board also asked about. And then dental coverage, vision, basic life, short-term, long-term disability, and then, of course, the total estimates and cost. Just kind of a marketing overview, if you will. We sent a request for proposal out in late March. We reviewed questions. Ultimately, we received final proposals. We did an analysis of those. We pushed back out to those who responded. We negotiated some additional terms. We spoke with joint benefits, which included all of our unions and finance. And then we are here today to present to you a proposal that we would ask that you would vote on for next month. In terms of marketing, again, the proposal was marketed to 29 different carriers directly as well as indirect marketing. We received responses from 8 different carriers in all of these areas, including medical, stop loss, dental, vision, life, disability, EAP, and wellness. And after this, the next voice you hear will be that of Karen Shelton Henry, will walk you through our recommendations for each of those lines of coverage and kind of talk about some of the challenges, some of the reasons for the increases. And without further ado, Karen Shelton Henry.
Good evening. So I'm going to start with medical coverage. In this part of the presentation, you're going to see a green arrow, which is the actual recommendation for each of those benefit areas. So we went out to bid, as Charles said, for medical. The first scenario, our recommendation is to renew with United Healthcare. United Healthcare came back with an initial renewal of 7.9% increase with a 10% rate cap for 2025. We went back, renegotiated with them, maintained the 7.9% increase with a 9.9 rate cap for 2025 and a 12.9 rate cap for 2026. I want to share that 7.9 seems high, but right now medical is trending at between 10 and 12% nationally. With this recommendation, there's a wellness credit of $100,000 with a dedicated wellness resource. There's a program that's attached called Simply Engage, where employees and their covered spouses can engage in wellness activities and earn an additional $200 in gift cards per year. And then included with that is the information or the employee assistance program, which I'm going to speak to on another slide. The second scenario, was to renew with United Healthcare and add an in vitro rider. An in vitro rider is about 3.5% of the base premium, or about another $1 million for the services that they offer under in vitro. With the current in vitro services, there are services that are covered in our current plan that employees can utilize. With the rider, there are some limitations. There's a $30,000 lifetime max benefit that employees can receive, and just basically one round or one base round of in vitro services runs about $15,000 to $25,000. So if we added that rider, employees are not going to get the greatest benefit at the cost that they're charging us, because it's across the board. So it's not the recommendation. The recommendation is for us to continue with the current fertility coverage that's available. The third scenario was to move to Anthem, which is also known as what was known as Blue Cross. Their proposal was an 8.2% increase, no plan changes. However, there would be huge member disruption because some of the physicians that we use in United Healthcare are not part of the Anthem network. The wellness program is not as robust, and there's also a lot of concerns in the industry with service, claims, systems, changes, and claims having to be reprocessed. The variance or the difference with moving to Anthem is about $2.2 million, so it's not our recommendation. Scenario 4 and 5 is where we looked at the possibility of going self-funded, and you can see respectively United Healthcare's costs will be 38.6% over our current rate, and Anthem was 32% over our current rate. Definitely not a recommendation. The next slide shows us what the current premiums are, and then what the premiums would look like if we move to United Healthcare, and this breaks down the individual premiums per employee per plan. So you know we have 3 plans. We have a base plan, a buy-up 1, and a buy-up 2. So this slide shows how many employees are enrolled in each of those plans, what tier, and what the actual monthly increase would be to those employees. Prescription coverage is attached to the medical coverage. We currently have coverage with Express Scripts. It's through our Business Health Coalition membership. So this benefit did not go out to bid because we're on a different contract year for renewals with them. However, we're going to use, or we're asking to use, the reserves that we have, as well as the rebate money that we get back from Express Scripts on an annual basis to kind of keep the pharmacy benefit flat. So on the previous slide, you saw the medical and pharmacy rates combined. This incorporates that rate for pharmacy, which we'll be keeping it flat. Included with included with medical is our wellness program. And so the proposal from United is to keep the $100,000 additional credit in place, to have our dedicated wellness person. Currently, employees can earn up to $200 and their covered spouses for additional wellness incentives. In 2024, there's talk about moving that $200 to $300, and that's all included in the premium. For 2023, some of our wellness initiatives are listed here. So we've had virtual cooking demos. We've had wellness challenges where employees could win gift cards and other wellness type items. We've had discounts offered to employees. We recently had a SLPS workout day where employees came to Club Fitness and did 15 minutes of yoga, 15 minutes of stretching, and then they raffled off 2 memberships to 2 of our employees for a year. We do preventative screenings. We've had mammogram van twice this year. We did flu shots twice this year. And then we've won 2 awards that I'm very proud of. One is the Business Health Journal, St. Louis Business Health Journal, Healthiest Employees. It's done by group sizes, and we've won 3rd place for our group size 2 years in a row. And then we have the Gold Level American Heart Association, and this is the 3rd year that we've won that level for that award. Our Employee Assistance Program, no employee assistance vendor responded to our bid. However, we have 2 available options for employees. They're both standalone, so employees get the benefit because of our coverage through one of the, or 2 of the vendors that we have in place. So the first one is through Optum. Optum is a standalone product through United Healthcare, and the other one is New York Life EAP. So I did a little research prior to this presentation, and with Optum, we had 108 employees who used the program in 2022. 87.6% of the issues were resolved within the Employee Assistance Suite. Doesn't seem like a lot, but the services are there. We send out brochures to let employees know that these services are available to them. Moving on to dental. Currently we have coverage through Delta Dental of Missouri, and we're recommending that we stay with them. Their initial offer was 7% with a 2-year rate guarantee and a 5-year rate cap on the 3rd year. We went back, we renegotiated down to 5% renewal and a rate cap for 3 years. The second scenario was to move to MetLife, proposed at a 0% renewal. However, MetLife only has a 2-tier network, which means that a lot of our employees will be going to a out-of-network provider, causing them less coverage and more out-of-pocket. So it's not our recommendation to move to the MetLife plan. For vision, we currently have coverage through Vision Benefits of America. It's our recommendation to renew with them. They actually offered a 5.8% decrease with a 3-year rate guarantee, and they have an enhancement. The basic progressive lenses will be paid in full starting in 2024. Delta also has a vision program in place. Again, the recommendation is not to move to them for a couple of reasons. Even though the proposed renewal was at 0% with the 3-year rate guarantee, our top 2 providers with Vision Benefits of America are not in the Delta Dental network, so probably about 60% of our employees would have to go to a different provider. So life insurance and short-term and long-term disability is a bundled benefit, and it's currently offered through New York Life, formerly Cigna. New York Life bought Cigna. And so the recommendation is to keep New York Life for basic life and AD&D. They're holding the rate, so there's no increase for 3 years. Voluntary, they're holding the rate for 3 years. And again, this year they're going to have a one-time open enrollment guaranteed issue, which means employees can apply for supplemental life insurance up to $200,000 without having to fill out any evidence of insurability forms. So it's a guaranteed issue. There's a 6% decrease recommended for the short-term disability, and they're going to hold the rates on long-term disability. The other scenario was to move to Hartford. Hartford's rate was just basically not competitive with a 3.4% increase. With all of that said, these are our recommendation summaries. So renew with United Healthcare, renew with Delta Dental, renew with Vision Benefits of America, as well as New York Life for our basic life, voluntary life, short-term, and long-term disability. So overall, when you look at the district responsibility, we're looking at an increase of 5.2% proposed for the district. It's 5.4% proposed for employees. The district responsibility will move from 33 million to 35 million for the next year, which includes some of the increases in medical as well as the decreases for some of the other ancillary vendors. The next slide shows you over a 10-year period what the employee cost per employee per month to the district is. So the proposal for 2024 is $931.90 per employee per month, which is up 5.2% from the current rate of $866.08 per month. Questions? This is where I run away.
I just want to thank you, Ms. Shelton Henry, as always, for such a thorough presentation, such a thorough job. I think you kind of make our job easy on such a large budget item and with detail that you go through, so we know that we're, to our best ability, we're protecting taxpayer interest to keep the costs down, but at the same time, and maybe more importantly, you're keeping the benefits for the employees top tier. I know it's a very difficult, always changing landscape, and you navigate it so well. So I want to thank you, and I'm not just saying that nice things because you give us chocolate at Christmas, but and I didn't get any, my kids ate it, but thanks.
Thank you. Other questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much for exploring the fertility coverage. Are you able to hear me? This is Natalie.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I appreciate that. I did want to make it clear that the iatrogenic and fertility coverage that only applies to people who are going to be receiving things like cancer treatment. So that is not really fertility coverage. Under scenario 2, that would be less than 0.1% of an increase in our budget. But as you said, $30,000 barely covers a full round of IVF. And I have to say that I am someone who went through 5 failed rounds to get my 1 miracle baby. And there are other teachers and people at the district who have reached out to me, and this is very important. With a female-dominated industry like teaching, being as competitive and compassionate as we can is really important. So maybe we're not able to get that this year. I'm still going to keep fighting for it. I mean, I got my miracle, but there are others out there who are still fighting. 1 in 8 couples face infertility, and especially in a young population, a population who is typically young and female and looking to start families. We need to keep being competitive as an employer. So perhaps looking into something even like egg banking. We already have teachers trying to plan their families around summer vacation and, not even finding out that they're facing infertility until they're so many summers into now lost time and lost egg quality. So something like oocyte preservation moving forward, at least so they can preserve their eggs and the good quality eggs that they have when they're spending their years with the district. So I feel like Missouri can do better, but that's not the battle to fight right now. I do appreciate you getting all of these details and your compassion and looking into this and trying to think of the greater good and center all of our employees. But again, I think that we are good enough customers with United Healthcare, and United Healthcare should consider perhaps adding that as an offer because without happy teachers, we don't get happy students, and we want as little stress on our teachers as possible. So especially when you're around students every day, it can be a huge trigger when you're facing infertility. So I know it was for me, it was very difficult being on the school board and wanting to see these kids succeed and not having any of my own. So I just want to throw that dialogue out there. I want to keep it open, and I want to keep supporting those of our teachers who are fighting this battle, many of them silently. So just want to be sure that we're continuing to explore options to support them. And that's it. Thank you very much.
We definitely will.
Thank you so much for your outstanding work. You keep us fit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Thank you very much. Once again, Ms. Shelton Henry. I echo the sentiments that were expressed. Just very thorough, very comprehensive, very thoughtful. Thank you to the HR team. Appreciate it. I want to thank the board because just the volume of the information, the presentations, we have about 118 board resolutions for the board to consider as we move into consent agenda items. And I just want to say thank you for your patience, thank you for your support, thank you for asking the very intentional questions that help us as a team share information that is thoughtful, comprehensive, intentional, data-driven. And so I do want to thank the board for their intentional work that they do each and every day to support us here in the district. Thank you. That concludes the superintendent's, the interim superintendent's reports this evening. Thank you, Board President Cousins. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. And as you stated, we do have 100 and something on the consent agenda. So what I'm going to do, if it's okay with the board, is I'm going to move to public comment. I'm going to move public comment up first, and then we'll take the consent agenda after, if that's okay with the board. With that said, I want to move with the first speaker signed up for public comment. Catrell Jackson. Okay. Mr. Monroe. Out of respect for our board members and the mission to conduct district business, we will continue to enforce guidelines for public comments. They are as follows. Citizens are interested in commenting. We've already asked you guys to sign up. We're giving you 3 minutes. Mr. Monroe, I'm sure you're well aware of how our system works. We will start.
I'm just learning. I'm new at this.
You're new, sir. I think you're about the most senior person on our comments. You have 3 minutes, and the clock will start
Is it
now.
on?
Yes, it's on, sir.
Okay. Greetings. After I attended the last citywide planning, and I was a bit disturbed over the lack of community participation. There was less than 7 people in there from the community, and it was full of St. Louis public school people there. And I want to say how disturbing it is that the community has been left out, the charter schools have been embraced, and those of us in the community that have been seeking a building in which to assist this community has been left out. So what I want to say to you now is I want this new board to consider partnering with Bill Monroe and Harriet Tubman. We've been left out of the game. So in doing so, I have contacted the Walgreens company, who have abandoned a building at Union and Page. And I am now getting ready to open up, God willing, ARPA funds come my way, Harriet Tubman Career Center, a career center. We're looking in a community where the police are being called in on our children, and every day, black boys, black girls are object being killed in the community, and we're not stepping forward with the real solution. The real solution is education, jobs, and skill training for our young people in the streets. So I would ask, and this is, I'm jumping way out there. I'm jumping out there because the St. Louis Public Schools hasn't been very nice to Bill Monroe in his request and won't even give me an opportunity to address the board without seeing that 3-minute jumping at me. So I invite this board to consider meeting with Harriet Tubman Career Center. We're going to open up a career center in that now vacant Walgreens, a block from my house at Page and Union. Harriet Tubman Career Center. I've contacted the Black Police Officers Association, the Black Firefighters Association. We're going to open up a public safety academy there. They say they need policemen, firemen, paramedics, and we need, as an urgent need, that we come to this community with solutions that don't involve police. And I'm an ex-policeman, so I know these streets, but that's not the solution, more police. And if we don't be careful, the Army National Guard is going to be here next. So I'm asking your support, and I'm asking the support and the monies to be flowed in to Harriet Tubman Career Center, and there are ARPA funds, the money there waiting. If these politicians quit going to jail, we can get something going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. Ms. Avis. Good evening, Ms. Avis.
Uh-oh. My public comment tonight is about leadership. Last fall, the Parent Action Council had a meeting that I found to be very moving and impactful. The meeting was about supporting teachers. My takeaway from the meeting was teachers need parents and caregivers to know that teachers are on our side. They care about our students and they care about us. And they need for us as parents and caregivers to be a bit more graceful with them, to be a bit more kind and understanding, especially with all the things that are happening. Okay, fast forward to May, as we gathered in community at school events, stories began to be shared. These stories were about a culture full of toxicity at the school. They were experiences shared from both parents and staff. They were all about the building's leadership. The unwelcoming feeling quite a few people have experienced from our leader. At first, I was sad, and then I was mad because I was running around volunteering, thinking I was part of a team and making things better. But in fact, I was actually ignoring the things that I saw and had felt at the school. So, like, who cares, right? The leader, the principals are notorious for being a little bit, you know, mean. So, but I think you care. As I have attended multiple citywide planning meetings, one of the things that we all agreed was that schools are a hub. There are places that we want to send our children to feel nurtured, to get resources, and people in the community to feel like they can go to for things. So I'm wondering, how can you have a hub where nobody wants to go there because they feel put off by the leadership? A leader cannot be someone where everyone has to adopt to their personality at the cost of everyone else's self-worth. That is kind of what we're at our school. So I'm asking if maybe you can think of a way of some system of accountability that when the teachers and staff email or say things or share things with you, that you take those things in consideration and try to do something different. Because at this point, it's neither supporting the leader nor supporting the staff. And the staff is here to support me. Thank you.
Dr. Anderson.
Good evening, everyone. I am Barbara Anderson, and I am a proud product of St. Louis Public Schools, starting from elementary all the way through St. Louis University for doctorates. In a letter dated July 11, 2022, from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to school administrators, DESE indicated that the Missouri Assessment Program data was available to SLPS and that grade level data would be available on July 18th, 2022. However, when questioned about the receipt of test data, the responses ranged from summer to sometime in October to late October, early November. This year, our district is in luck. DESE informs us that even though the testing window closed on May 23rd, our test data is going to be available much earlier. The DESE vendors prepare the data and reports. SLPS will receive test data as early to mid-June. Is there any way possible for our district to get that test data into the hands of all site leaders as soon as it is available? This request is not made lightly. This year, we have more non-certified teachers in our classrooms than we've ever had before in our history. While recognizing that certain actions have been taken because of the severe teacher shortage we, as are other districts across the nation, are suffering, DESE has already implemented practices designed to provide as many teachers as possible. Unfortunately, these practices all include lowering the standards and qualifications of persons who are working with our children. By the way, elementary schools are in a more dire situation than are other grade levels throughout the state. Add to the lack of certified teachers the concern of getting test data as quickly as possible. Take a look at the calendar. We discovered that the most teaching opportunities occur from August through October. In all other months, students miss instructional time because of holidays and winter and spring breaks. Now, more than ever, we need parents to choose St. Louis Public Schools as the schools they send their children to. A great move toward achieving this goal would be allowing building leaders to have resources needed to make instructional decisions. Of these resources, test data is vital. Again, I ask, is there any way possible to ensure all building sites receive their test data earlier than what has taken place historically? Vital to the success of any entity is the practice of working proactively, not reactively. Buildings need test data before students ever get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Now we go on to the consent agenda.
I had two accidents trying to get here, but I didn't get a chance to sign up. I have something prepared, and I had a hard time getting inside of here. And I got
If it's something written, you can actually get it to Ms. Henry, and she can get it to us.
it only going to take 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, ma'am. We actually have 100 and some items on the consent agenda, but you can get it to Ms. Henry, our secretary, and she'll get it to us.
I want it to be out. I'll bring it back the next time.
Okay, sorry.
It may not be read. Maybe throw in the trash.
Okay. Moving on to the June consent agenda. We're going to go from 06-13-2301. Does anyone have anything from 06-13-2301 to 06-13-2315? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve 06-13-2301 to 06-13-2315.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Fowl,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Anything from consent agenda 0613 2316 to 0613 2337.
I want to take.
I have a few.
Ms. Val?
18, 19, 20, and 21. Are those just, they look the same, but I'm sure there's something different. Are they just for different sites, or could someone help me understand why they're almost exactly the same? Some support Pillar 5, strategic partnerships, and some support the partnerships and resources. I'm
Hold on, Ms.
all
Val.
of the, sorry for the public, all of these are memorandums of understanding with different universities, I guess, to provide mentoring programs for speech language pathologists. So
Hold-
the difference is just the specific locations.
So you want to pull 17, 18, and 19 for questions?
No, it's just a question of clarity on 18 through 21. If someone could answer that, I don't need to pull them.
So you want questions for 18, 19, and 21? Correct?
18, 19, 20, and 21. Yeah.
Okay, so can I get 0613 2316 to 17 a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Fowl,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, discussion on 0613 2318.
Ms. Boyd?
So good evening. We have various partnerships with universities so that we can grow our own related service providers. So we have universities, students that enroll in occupational therapy programs, speech language pathology programs. If those students need practicum opportunities to work on their program of study, we can then place those students in the district to then work on completing those degrees with the hopes that once they graduate, they would then work for the district.
I do have a
Got it.
question.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Those are essential services. I guess just the clarification is that do we have specific sites that are like specific SLPS schools that align with specific universities, or is it just where the greatest need is for our students?
It just depends when the student is placed, if there's a grade level need or if there are available staff that can supervise those students. It just really depends.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Jones?
The question is, I know I heard you say with the hopes of, with so many of these training programs, we're not paying for their training, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
So I
ma'am.
guess all we can do is hope.
And have the partnership right. So when students, if they enroll in universities, become occupational therapists, and then there's the opportunity to do their practicum, we are hoping that once we stand ready to embrace these students, they will then come, complete their practicum, graduate, and then we can recruit them to work for the district. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Val, does that answer 18, 19, and 20?
That answers 18 through 21. Yeah, thank you. And we can move on from 18 to wherever.
Any other questions regarding 18, 19, 20, and 21? I need a motion.
I move to approve 613 2318 through 613 2321.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussions. Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Fowl,
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Any questions for 0613 2322 to 0613 2337?
I'd like to make a motion to approve 613 2322 separately.
We're pulling 0613 23 22 for questions. Mr. Davis?
Yeah, I made a motion to approve.
I'm sorry. Second. Motion to approve. I'm sorry. Ms. Jones, second. Discussion.
I've asked a lot of questions on this and gotten answers. I don't understand what the MOU is providing. This is a coalition of groups that's already in the area. I don't know why we just can't refer individuals to this. I just don't have clarity on.
Pillar 5.
Dr. Bender, please. And Ms. Woodard? I know. But Dr. Bender and Ms. Woodard, thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good.
What was your question, Mr. Davis?
So this is a coalition of groups that provide services in the area. I mean, we can always refer people to them without an MOU. We do that all the time. We heard the Urban League presentation where they actually provide mentors, so that MOU makes sense. Although, we're paying for this. This is something they've already got grants to do. Why do we need this MOU, and what are these individuals going to do in all these schools? They have 3 employees that are already running a program for 10 to 17 years old. There's 1 high school included in this. I'm just really struggling with understanding what this is.
Okay, well, all of the coalition includes not just one particular agency. There are several agencies that are part of the coalition that provide specific services. So if there's an organization that's a part of the coalition, then they would refer to that particular organization for services. It's specific to the schools that are within the Dutchtown, South, Mount Pleasant, and Graveway Park neighborhoods. So it will be specific to those particular schools, which I know the Urban League, according to what I saw, does not include those particular schools.
I get that. I don't understand what the MOU is for. So the MOU is an agreement that they're going to do something
Yes, I
with
know.
the schools, and that's because there needs to be some sort of back and forth. But we always can have a referral relationship that doesn't require an MOU, if I'm correct. So I've asked a lot of questions to seek clarity because the MOU is very vague, and I know we've gotten in situations before where a vague MOU leads to lots of problems. And here, not only we have a vague MOU, we have a vague MOU with a coalition of people, and so I'm not sure what the expectations are for SLPS. I'm not sure what the expectations are. There's a lot of grandiose, they're going to solve all the world's problems, but when we get down to the practical aspect of it, that's what I'm struggling with.
Well, a lot of the information that they were going to be providing, or a lot of the programming that they were going to be providing, was the summer programming in terms of referral for summer camps. They were going to be doing enrichment and case management and wraparound services, services that are definitely necessary for the schools that, for the need of the students.
And I guess, do we need an MOU for that? Or is that just something where, they're in the neighborhood, they've been in the neighborhood a long time, some of these,
Sure.
they've got brick and mortar places with programs. I just don't see the direct connection.
I think the idea of bringing this to an MOU is to kind of really solidify that relationship, and I think it allows us to bring more accountability, and it allows us, instead of it just being something that's referred to here and there, when we look at our visual, we can go, okay, here's supports for these schools, here's supports for this. I think it just provides more structure. And that's something we're definitely looking for in student support services. How do the pieces fit together? Who are the players? So we know who's doing what and covering what. I think when it is a more casual relationship, I think that's where you're more likely to have things slip through the cracks. And with the students on the line, I think we want to avoid that. So that was the idea of trying to bring this and add a little bit more.
I 100% agree with you, and I'm behind that. My concern is it's a formalized, casual MOU, So like the MOU is not setting forth what everybody's doing. And, it's just, okay, so this is a group of people that we can work with. But what does that mean? I mean, and if it was just one, maybe it would be a little more coherent. But because you've got all of these groups doing all of these things, I'm just confused. I'm just concerned. That's all.
Are we pulling data? Are we getting data from them? Are we tracking how we're getting the resources and what information they're actually doing for the students that they're servicing for us?
So this is going to be a new partnership, and they haven't started providing services yet.
So can we put as part of the requirement of the MOU to kind of give an expectation of what we're looking for them to do?
Absolutely. And in addition to that, I know that a lot of the services and things that are going to be provided with fidelity because of the fact of the funding that they're receiving from the grants that they have received.
So that's what I'm saying. So it sounds like you're saying they're going to be receiving different funding sources.
They have received grants to provide these services.
To
correct.
provide services. So from the funding sources that they're receiving, they have to submit reports. Do we get access to those reports so that you guys can provide those reports to us? So that's I think that would help. Would that help more in what we're trying to do to make sure we're seeing that they're actually providing adequate services to the students?
Absolutely.
To our students and families.
I mean, I guess I'm actually more concerned about that, because here you've got groups that have applied and gotten state funding and also private funding as well. So they are beholden to the requirements of those organizations. And now, but they need kids to fulfill it, and we've got the kids. So unless whatever's in those side agreements are incorporated in our MOU, and we know what those are, and we know that we agree with those, I think I would feel better about it. But again, you've got 3 funders, you've got about 10, 15 different organizations, and the MOU is just saying we've got an agreement to do all these things, but the devil just always comes down to the details. That's just my concern why I've asked all the questions, and the answers just really left me lacking. That's all. That's just my opinion.
So would you prefer to table it, Mr. Davis, until you get better clarity?
It's not up to me.
Can we table it?
Sure.
Thank you.
That would be a motion to postpone, just for a point of clarity. We would need a motion to postpone it until such time.
Mr. Davis, can we get a motion to postpone this?
I will withdraw my motion to approve, and I will make a motion to postpone.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Lau?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Moving on, 06-13-23-23 to 06-13-23-37. Any questions?
I'll move to approve 23 through 27.
Can I get a second?
Second.
You mean 37, Ms. Davis?
I apologize, 37.
It's been moved. Is it second by Mr. Tracy?
Yes.
Any discussions?
I just feel like we should say we're passing the budget.
Ms.
That's exciting.
Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Lau?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
06-13-23-38 to 06-13-23-60.
I have a question on 42.
I'd like to pull 51, so.
Ms.
So I'll make a motion for 38 through 41 to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussions? Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss? Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Lau?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. Ms. Val?
So
Is
I'm
this,
just
is this
Can you hear me?
06-13-22?
42, yeah. So I'm just confused. It is to approve a contract renewal with Thinking Collaborative subcontractor, Michelle Tizieri. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I probably did. Communities in Collaborative Conversation. It is for 8 sessions of training and cognitive coaching to a selected group of district leadership. How are we selecting that group? What is the outcome supposed to be? And is there a reason that we're approving a contract with a specific subcontractor versus the Thinking Collaborative itself? I'm sorry if I missed this during our last work session. It just stood out to me, and
That's okay. Can you do me a favor? Can you rescind that motion and do a motion to table it? That person is not here to explain, please.
Yes, I will. I move that we postpone item 42 until such time as we can get the person responsible for the data and implementation of that program to provide some more clarity.
Second. Ms. Henry.
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Fowl?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Where are we at? We're at 06, 13, 23, 43.
I make a motion to approve 06, 13, 23, 43 to 06, 13, 23, 50.
Second. Any discussions? Ms. Henry.
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Fowl?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
06, 13, 23, 51 to 06, 13, 23, 71.
I want to make a motion to take 06, 15, 23, 51 separately.
Second. Mr. Davis.
This is a program for 20 kids to go to a youth leadership program. Again,
Dr. Bender.
Happy. You miss me?
Tuesdays.
I mean, I know what the big program is. So this, we take 20 kids out of school to go to a program. We don't yet know who's teaching it. We know their general topics. It costs $5,000 plus the cost of transportation. Am I getting that right?
That is correct.
Okay. I mean, what's the value? And only 20 kids. How are they selected?
They're selected by the school sites. It goes through the counselors to determine who is interested. It's kind of a feather in a cap of a student. It's one of those things, as we start teaching students in high school about resume builders and opportunities, this is one of those things that allows students to be able to step up and excel. So staff at the school sites help identify those students that might be interested in just a supplementary experience.
Thank you, Dr.
At
Bender.
all the school sites?
No, it's not 20 per school site, it's 20 high schoolers total.
And do they come from all?
Yes,
All
they
of them?
all are eligible, yes.
So they can come, but they may not?
They have to apply, and then we make the decision on the 20 and then move that forward.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Ms. Bender, don't we teach those type of skills in SLPS, like resume building, those kind of things?
Yes, no, and when I referenced resume building, it was in relation to this is a really good thing for them to put on their resumes, that we kind of teach that. But when they have other things that can make them shine a little bit better than other students, I think that's a really important part of education that sometimes people neglect, is how to help the high schoolers specifically build their resume that makes them shine, whether it's for college applications, for employment, or scholarships.
So you're saying focus St. Louis on their resume would make them stand out?
It is certainly something, especially in the region, that is well known, yes, as well as the skills that they gain by doing it. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any other discussions? Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Fowl?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
No.
Ms. Cousins?
No.
Motion passed.
0613-2352 to 0613-2371.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions?
I just have one question or informal request about 0613-2364 about the STAR learning. I would hope within the next year that maybe we could, I don't know if it needs to be a formal bid process, maybe it does, but just to at least do an assessment and evaluation of other possible products and the usefulness of those products, just to make sure that we're, this is such a time-consuming sort of albatross around students and teachers' necks. I just want to make sure that we're getting the best one possible. That's all.
Ms.
Understood.
Bednoe?
Understood. So if you remember, I think in the questioning, Star Renaissance is one of the 4 that DESE honors. So I know there's school districts across the state that are having to completely change because they don't have one of the 4. We were kind of backed into a corner a year and a half ago when Scantron went bankrupt, and we were able to move our formative and summative assessments to Renaissance seamlessly. So that is when we added that. Before, we just had STAR reading and math. And then during the pandemic, we added Freckle and Mayan because of the request from the teachers. So it's kind of grown in the last 2 or 3 years for specific reasons. But we could certainly look at bidding, but in my personal opinion, I think it's the best one at this point.
And I understand that, but, there's 2,500 people in the classroom that may have a different opinion.
Sure.
And, there's 15,000 kids that probably certainly have a different opinion. So that would just make me feel better.
Sure.
And I know DESE, but they don't always know what they're talking about.
Understood.
This is being recorded?
Yes, it is.
Good.
Thank you, Deputy Bednoe.
Really?
Ms. Henry, any other discussions? I'm sorry. Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Val?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
71. I'm so lost on that. Okay, 0613-2372 to 0613-2393.
I'd have to take, 73 separate.
Mr. Burton?
Mr. Davis?
We didn't approve 72, right?
No.
Okay, so I have to make a motion to approve 613-2370.
Second. Discussions. Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yep.
Ms. Val?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Mr. Davis?
I'll make a motion to approve 613-2373.
Second. Discussion.
So, thank you guys. I'm glad that we finally, and I'm sorry, my mic, oh, there it is. It's on. I'm glad that we finally have the more longitudinal data rather than just the 1 year. And from my interpretation of that data is really they're not doing any better than anybody else. That our problem isn't recruitment necessarily. I mean, that is an issue. It's retention. I've always had issues with this program from its origins with the Opportunity Trust. I have very strong issues with the way the program is marketed, which is really to denigrate St. Louis Public Schools. I've asked for that to be changed previously. It hasn't. So now that we have the data, I just don't feel like this program necessarily shares our values. There's probably better uses for it. I'd be willing to offer an amendment to continue the program for the cohort that's current, but not to continue taking on new applicants. And I'll make that motion.
Can you define the program?
Oh, the program is the St. Louis Teacher Residency.
Mr. Burton.
Yep, I understand what you're asking, and I understand the motion as well. And so I appreciate the opportunity to allow people who are in the program to finish. And I think there are probably some other opportunities to recruit people to continue to do our Grow Your Own programs, which isn't necessarily associated with an organization that the board is not comfortable with.
So I'll move to amend 613-2373 to continue with the current cohorts in place, but not to take on new entries into the program.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussions? Ms. Jones?
I just think it's unfortunate. Over the years, I've asked the same question. We've spent millions of dollars on training teachers, and they come and pimp us out and leave. They don't even stay. I just really pray that the teachers that we've invested money in will stay and provide the services to our students that they said that they wanted to provide services for. So to me, it's kind of a sad statement to have people to continuously do this to us. Thank you.
Ms. Sadie? Oh, I apologize. Mr. Tracy? Oh, I'm sorry. I just saw you guys' mic on. Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Val?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
I'm sorry, we're saying yes to the program?
The amendment.
He did.
Okay, yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'll renew my motion to approve 613-2373 as amended.
Second. Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Val?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
06-13-23-74. That was the one we just did, right?
No, we did 73.
74 to 06-13-23-80. I'm sorry, guys. 93.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussions. Anything for Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Val?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'll make a motion to approve 513-2394 through, I'm sorry, 613-23-4, 94 to 613-23-95.
Second.
Discussions. Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Val?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'll make a motion to approve 613-2396.
Second. Discussion. Mr. Davis?
We've asked for data on this program. I realize this only went into December, but this is the 8th one. No data has been provided. There's other, I'm just voting no.
You got somebody?
Principal Triplett?
Yes, what type of data are you requiring about?
Data.
This is the
Believe
literacy
project,
lab.
literacy.
Okay. So as a result of the literacy project, so our accountability plan had a goal of student growth of 8 months, and as a result of, adding this program to our school in December, from December to May, at the end of the school year, our school-wide growth is actually over 1 year. So actually 1 year and 1 month of growth. And I believe that having this program in our building helped to reach that goal.
Any other questions? Mr. Davis?
no more questions.
Thank you, Dr. Triplett.
Thank you, Principal Triplett.
Ms. Henry?
Mr. Heights,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard. No. Ms. Val,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
No.
Mr. Davis,
No.
Ms. Cousins.
No.
Motion failed.
I make a motion to remove 06-13-2397.
Second.
Ms. Henry?
Mr. Heights,
To remove.
Hold on. Can we do discussion on that?
We're tabling it. They're not ready for this.
Okay, so we're postponing and not
Yeah,
just
we're
removing?
postponing it.
Okay, until what date? Next work session or business?
They're a business.
Okay, so until our July meeting would be the motion?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
06-13-2398 to hallelujah.
We still have to vote on it, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Henry. I'm sorry.
Mr. Heights,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard. Yes. Ms. Val,
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion passed.
06-13-2398
Just go to the end.
to 06
108.
to 06-13-108.
So moved.
Second. Discussions.
Hold on, I have a question on 106. This is increased by over 30% since the board first got governance 4 years ago. It used to be an $80,000 contract, and each year there would be an addition of $20,000 or $30,000 as a ratification. I just want to make sure that this $108,000 for a contract renewal with our lobbyist is not going to end up, that this is all inclusive. It's not going to end up with any extra costs coming up at the end of the year or the close to the end of the MOU next time.
This is all inclusive. Also, Dr. Crapo worked on this to make sure that we didn't have the thing that we had the last 2 years where we missed out on our requirement to have a minority lobbyist as part of the team. So this is all inclusive of that. So this is it.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate that clarity because this has been a messy one every single time, either due to our error or theirs. Something's always happened that we had to vote on it twice or that didn't get voted on or whatever. So thank you, Dr. Crapo, for doing due diligence and making sure that this is the final version.
I wanted to give Mr. Watson an opportunity for discussion on 98, 99. Did you bring your special guests tonight?
Hold on. Did we finish that?
Huh? No, it's discussion. So, okay, questions. So this again is the replacement of the chain link fences in the district that have been tested positive for lead paint. So it's removal and replacement. $800,000 for removal was provided for by the state in last year's appropriations. Thank you to Representative Bosley and Senator Roberts for championing that. And then the rest is coming from ESSER 3 funds. So just the questions I've been getting a lot, these are for the chain link fences that tested positive. Previously, the wrought iron, which we've always known has had lead, probably since the day lead paint since the day it was on there, we have gone and remediated those, not removed them, but painted over them a protective coating, which is an approved way of remediation, and then remediated any soil underneath that also tested positive. Am I stating this all correctly?
So I'll let Mr. Faust, who works with environmental consultant, but initially the idea is that we have approximately 6.2 miles of chain link fence that will be removed and be replaced with this new vinyl aesthetically pleasing type of fencing. And I'll let Mr. Faust address the other concern or the other question regarding the wrought iron fences.
Hi, good evening, members of the board. Jeff Faust with Environmental Consultants. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. We've been of service to the district since 2007, and safety is the #1 priority in everything we do for the children of this district. There are basically two types of fences in the district. To your point, Mr. Davis, there are these beautiful wrought iron fences that are aesthetically pleasing, are well known throughout our community. A lot of enhancements and just aesthetically pleasing for the neighborhoods of St. Louis. Those wrought iron fences are actually pretty easy to clean and to keep a fresh coat of paint on. So that's what happened during the pandemic, and I believe the spring of 2020, as we went through, any flaking, peeling paint was removed, and then we brought in a responsible contractor to repaint those fences. That should buy us at least another 10 years on those fences. And, you know, if a child accidentally comes up or brushes up against a fence, we know it's safe because it's got a fresh coat of paint on it. As I talked to the board back in 2021, the other type of fence in the district are the chain link fences. These are, they were much cheaper to install. There's a lot of it. As Mr. Watson said, there's miles of that material. And when they painted those fences, that's actually dripping off the fences. It's not something, because of the way chain link is made, it's not something that you can just remove the pieces that are dripping and just give it a paint job. It's not like, it doesn't work like it does with the wrought iron fences. So back in 2021, when we addressed the board, our recommendation was get that stuff out, replace it with something that's safe, such as what Mr. Watson's talking about with the poly-coated fencing. And that way, if our kids brush up against it or they have to go chase a ball or whatever, we know it's absolutely safe. So that's what we're looking to do now. When we went through in 2020, if there was any soil that had paint chips in it or anything like that, the contractors got rid of that stuff while they're there. They did that as part of that project. So really, we have an excellent approach with board approval to really put the exclamation mark on this, put a bow on it, and then get back to the classroom environment where we have lots of other issues to deal with. We've got a great program here at SLPS. It leads the state of Missouri as far as lead programs and how we reduce lead exposure in schools. And we encourage you and the public at any point, come meet with us and we'll go through it and show you the details and show you the data that supports that.
So my question is, so in 2020, we did the sort of the district-wide testing of all the fences, and that data is still sort of hanging out there. Since then, we have remediated the soil and the wrought iron, and pending this funding and the RFP process and the design process and everything that's taken all this time, we're ready to replace the chain link. Will there be is there a need to do testing for a new set of data to compare that to the old one, or can you just say with assurance that all of that data where it tested positive has been remediated?
The answer is yes. Our goal with this particular agenda item is to make it safe, sir. That's exactly what we're doing. We can certainly retest if that's what the district wants. I would say more importantly, and we all know the importance of getting ESSER money and bond issue money and all that, but ongoing maintenance is always the key to these buildings. The last Prop S that we did, they did a great job of spending the resources on keeping the outside of the buildings watertight and waterproof so that we're not getting the damage we used to inside our buildings. Well, now it's time to take it a step further, and that's exactly what we're looking at is keeping those surfaces intact. So as part of the inspections that we do twice a year, our folks are out looking at things like that and making notes. And if something has to be maintained, then we work with our existing budgets to make certain they're safe for the kids.
Thank you.
Can we do something different with the sign that's on the fence?
My opinion would be that the signs can come down.
Yeah, because I think that's what brings the level of confusion, because I think we're all getting a lot of emails regarding if it's lead, if it's not lead, if it's been abated or what have you. I think we need to either take the signs down, get bigger signs or what have you, but that's where the level of confusion comes. Because from what I'm hearing you say, the fence that we have been abated.
The wrought iron
The
fencing
wrought
has,
iron
yes.
fence, not the chain link fence, but the
Yes,
wrought
ma'am.
iron fence. Yeah, so we probably should be okay with just taking those signs down.
Yes, I'll work with Ms. Willis and we'll get that done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, did you have anything else? You good with everything else?
I remember.
Thank you. Okay, we are at 06 13 23 98 to 06 13 23 108, correct? It's been, oh, okay, well, I mean, you had a discussion. Are we good now? Any discussions? Ms. Henry? It's late, y'all know.
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, 06 13 23 108. That's, no, it's 108.
Oh.
Come on. To 119. Any questions? I have one. 108.
Me too.
Everybody got 108. Everybody.
Ms.
Come on,
Benoit?
come on.
Deputy Benoit?
Benoit, come on down. Food service. It's 108.
Food service. Food service.
I'm looking at to approve Southwest Food Service.
I apologize. We have an updated agenda. What do you have?
Well, 108 Southwest.
That's 108. Who's 108?
108, Deputy Watson.
What, 108, the packet that was delivered to me, 108 is a contract renewal with IPNS for network service, or
On mine, that's 109.
Right.
I don't see one for Southwest Food Service. That must be an addendum. Hold on.
Confusing.
How you got this big old packet?
Okay, one. No, it was not. My interim is telling me what to do, and I'm gonna go with my interim. Who has 108?
Mr. Watson, Deputy
Mr.
Watson. Thank you.
Can you help me understand Southwest Food Service? Is this for the entire district? And this is a single source?
Yes.
I know this has been a discussion. I have concerns. I'm sure everyone has concerns because I've gotten multiple emails about how the food is. What is our plan of action?
So we did have sent out an RFP this last year for food service management company. We only have one responsive bidder, which was Southwest, who was our current vendor. We've had several communications. I know we were at a PAC meeting sometime at Gateway Complex, and I've also, and I think Ms. Albert Santiago, have shared those concerns with our current food provider, Southwest. So our plan, and I'll also bring Ms. Albert Santiago to kind of discuss in more detail what that plan looks like. But in essence, it's accountability piece, ensuring that Southwest provides fresh, nutritious meals according to USDA guidelines, but at the same time, it's that internal process of us somewhat forming committees that consist of principals, teachers, student voices, as well as some members of the PAC to more or less an approach that we kind of looking at this holistically so that we'll be able to not only go to individual schools internally, but also engage others such as the students' voices, teacher voices, principal voices, PAC voices, parent voices, so that we can ultimately go back to Southwest if there's any issues or concerns and give them opportunity to address those concerns. So,
we'll be working with the PAC. We'll have parents to come to the district and work with us on different concerns. And so, like Mr. Watson said, we will be working with students and principals, as well as different parents from all over the district. And we will work with Southwest on any concerns that the students or parents might have.
Is there any way we could do like a quarterly type reporting to them, like going to them, you know, coming up with some level of assessment every quarter, coming back to them saying this is where we are, this is the concerns that we have. How does the contracts look? Is it a 1-year contract, a 2-year contract? Like how can we kind of force our hand with them?
We actually have monthly meetings with Southwest. It's called a monthly joint review that we go over all different types of concerns, even financial concerns. And so, yes, we can have different meetings, not only with Southwest, but with other parents. The contract is usually a 5-year. You have the initial, and then we have 4 renewals.
Thank you. Ms. Jones?
Is it possible to bring the food service back here to the state of Missouri versus having it somewhere out of state? And wouldn't the barometer be the trash cans full of food every lunch hour? Because many of the kids I talk to make a resounding sound of "it's nasty." They said it's nasty. They do. I mean, and if they're hungry at school, it defeats the purpose of paying for that food. I mean, I can't understand. I know he said he put out an RFP, but couldn't you put out smaller requests for venues here in the city of St. Louis to provide food at various schools? Because the kids were surprised when they got chicken close to the last day. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just really hoping that we can bring the food service back here. And with things changing in the world so fast, you just never know. It might be better to have our food service closer to our students. That's what I'm hoping. Thank you.
Could we have maybe it sounds like people hear their kids' complaints, post pictures of their food on Facebook, and that might not actually make it to you, where you can go yell at them for not having nice food for our kids. I mean, it was the last week of school and my kid got a moldy orange or something. Like, that shouldn't be happening. Our kids deserve the best. And if you're not aware of all the things that are happening, then you can't fix it. So could we, I don't know who's in charge of the website, but can we have like a very specific and clear place for parents and children? Some of my kids would be happy to do that themselves, to say, hey, this is what was at our school today, and that's not okay.
I'll be working with Gloria Nolan, and they have the digest for parents, that magazine or that newsletter, that we will be putting our concerns in that. So the parents can go into that digest and add their concerns. So Ms. Gloria Nolan will be working with me on those concerns with the parents.
I just think we need to make it really clear that there is a pathway, a specific thing that they can do to hopefully get results, instead of just complaining on Facebook and grossing everybody out with the pictures.
And I think in addition to that, we'll be working with the Office of Institutional Advancement with Deputy Willis. I think we have the forum Let's Chat is a way that we can also get feedback. And I think lastly, as a data point, we'll be more intentional about surveys, particularly student surveys, teacher survey, principal surveys. That way we can collect the data when we have our monthly meetings, so we at least have at the ground level some feedback and response in regards to how's food, for example. So just something simple as that, but in addition to working with the OIA office to kind of get that Let's Chat form so that we can get the feedback from parents, students, and stakeholders.
And we will be offering focus groups at the different schools. So the students will have the opportunity to be working with us in person.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I would just like to see kind of an overall, maybe, I don't know, within the next few months, presentations, an overall plan for addressing it. Yes, we get this feedback, but then what are the metrics we're going to use to hold our food service accountable? Because this is $13 million we're talking about. And like Donna said, if this food is going straight to the trash, then we may as well light the money on fire. So if we don't have procedures and policies in place to actually check up, yes, opinions are nice, but what are we going to do about them? I would like to see sort of a plan of how we're going to respond and how we're going to hold our vendor accountable.
Thank you, Ms. Val. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Albert Santiago and Deputy Watson.
Okay, I'm so lost. It looks like Ms. Van Noy, you was up for 06-13-23-109. And you was ready, I'm sorry. Who's first for Ms. Van Noy? Ms. Jones? No? Really? Ms. Van Noy, they don't have any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Van Noy.
Okay, 06-13-23, 108 to 117, whatever meant. I'm sorry, to 119.
I'll make a motion to approve 613-23, 108 to 613-23, 119.
Any discussions?
I had a question on one, well, it was 113. Let me see. I think it's 114 now about board policy 4300 and board regulation 4300.
Mr. Burton.
Hold on, Natalie. Let's pause. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do 06, 108 to 1.
To 113?
Yes, let's approve that.
Okay. Okay, so somebody needs to amend the motion.
I revise my motion to approve 613-23, 108 to 613-23, 113.
Second. Ms. Henry.
Mr. Heiss?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Val?
Yes.
Ms. Jones? Yes. Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, Ms. Val.
All right, so I guess motion to approve 113. Do we want to just take that one separately?
Yes.
Motion to approve 06-13, 23, 113. No, sorry, 114 now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the new version.
Second.
Discussion.
So I don't have all of the board policies memorized, but can you tell me what 4300, the policy and the regulation 4300 do, and what the update is going to be, and how this came about? Because if we're looking at, so it's for the public, it's to clarify the requirements for non-teacher evaluations. And we are about to move into an HR audit. Is there a reason that we need to do this one ASAP instead of have MSBA put this in the audit that they have already agreed and we've already paid for?
Sure, it's my
Mr.
understanding.
Burton. Go ahead.
Sure. So to answer the first question, the policies around both of those other policies are around the evaluations of non-certificated staff. This policy is intended to update that. This is actually a revision, if you will, of MSBA's recommended policy related to non-certificated staff evaluations. And it's my understanding it came at the request of the board.
Perhaps I missed that request of the board. I thought that was all going through the governance committee, so. Okay. I'm gonna read this real quick.
So the policy was, it's an MSBA policy that there were some revisions with you and our attorney, is that correct, Mr. Burton?
Yes, but
The
no
policy
substantive
really
changes.
speaks to evaluations for non-certificated staff. So staff, team members who are not in schools at this particular time, but particularly 801 staff members. So it speaks to support. What does it look like to have a clear, transparent, intentional system of evaluation that really moves our system forward so that we recruit, retain, support high-quality leaders at the district level? And so it speaks to an evaluation process for district-level staff members. Is that correct, Mr. Burton?
Yes.
I guess I'm still just confused on how it came separately as a request of the board, and the request that I thought we were going with was for MSBA to review HR, review all of our policies starting with HR. Is this how we are doing it? That they're going to send us one at a time, or that we pick our priorities? Or can you tell me a little bit about the interactions we've had with MSBA so far? Because since there have not been any governance committee meetings, I am not apprised of the progress there. So if you could share a little bit with me about that, I would appreciate it.
No, we're working on getting policies, but this was one of the policies that we did not have, so we had to move forward to. We spoke with MSBA, and this was one of the policies that we had to make sure we brought forward. So this was something that was inquired about, and we were able to actually see that MSBA had that policy, and we had to bring it forward for the district.
Okay, I may have not been a part of that conversation, and I don't recall seeing it in an email.
Yeah, you didn't see it. Yeah, we haven't had a governors meeting, so we do need to have that meeting to have more discussions regarding that. But we have had the conversation, and we're working on a contract for that particular, to move forward with bringing more policies into the space that we need to have them in.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Thornton. Anything else? So on you, Natalie, did you have another one?
No, we just need to vote on that one. There was a motion to approve, and it was seconded.
No other discussions? 0613 2314 114, Ms. Henry.
Mr. Hikes,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Val,
Abstain?
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion passed.
0613 2315 17 to 19.
I'll make a motion to approve 0613 23 115 through 0623 119.
Second.
Any discussions? I'm sorry, guys. I do have a discussion. I'm just trying to get clarity on the 15 and 16 on the apparel. Help me understand why do we leave $500,000 for that? Help me.
Ms. Banks?
Yes, great. So when we go out and RFP for various vendors, these are based on items that the schools and departments have requested. They're things that they may give out for various incentives, depending on which item that you're talking about. And really the amount that is on there is really just a not to exceed. It's not for anything specific at this point. So like the I Love SLPS t-shirts that everybody loved, that would fall up under, there you go, some of these items.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other discussions?
Yeah, my question on that is, so this is 15 and 16. So that's two embroidery and hoodies and whatever. Is that both of them are $500,000? Do I have the correct version in front of me? So that's $1 million total?
Yes, and again, those are not to exceed items. There's no specific contract with these vendors. It just makes them available as preferred vendors so schools and departments can use these without having to go out and get quotes and bids.
Okay, so I guess I'm having a little trouble seeing how that is separate from our marketing budget, because that seems like promotional marketing stuff, and maybe I just don't understand how the budget categories work and how they're aligned to our pillars. But if you could speak a little bit about how we divide that down and why that's a separate category, I would appreciate that clarity.
Sure, and for example, we know that part of the marketing campaign was the I Love SOPS t-shirts, so they actually used these vendors as part of their marketing campaign. So what they may use part of their budget, but instead of having to go out and do a separate RFP to use items for marketing, they can use the vendors that have already been selected as preferred vendors.
So as a categorical budget breakdown, this is still part of our marketing budget overall?
No, it's
Or just
separate,
a separate section of
yes, it's
what would
actually
be called promotional materials, I guess?
it's no one's specific budget, but it's just vendors that are made available to whomever in the district might need the services or products that these vendors provide. And there's already an approved vendor list. So if OIA wants to use these vendors for any of their marketing programs, or if any schools or departments want to use these vendors for incentives or other things, it's very similar to how we use our co-op vendors. We approve amounts so that those vendors are available for anyone to use without having to go out and do some procurement process in order to use those services or products.
So it's more about the preferred vendor status than it is the amount itself?
Correct.
Okay, and how are we choosing which, like if I'm at Roosevelt versus if I'm at Sumner, does each school set their budget for it? If they want to request a certain number of shirts or, you know, new football jerseys or something, how is that decision made with that, you know, $500,000, up to $500,000? How is that equitably distributed across our schools?
Well, again, it's not going to be all schools that would use a particular amount of that contract approved amount. So it's just based on whatever the plans are for the particular school or department that they would carve out that they want to use X amount for, you know, services or products used by these vendors. And what the procurement department does is run reports to see where we are throughout the year, bump it up against the $500,000 max to make sure that we're not exceeding what has been approved. So really, any school or department can determine based on the budget availability that they have if and when they want to use the services from these vendors.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So this is just making you have to get less signatures to get t-shirts for your schools?
That's a great way of putting it. Thank you.
Any other discussions? Ms. Henry? Thank you, Ms. Banks. Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Fowl? Yes. Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Committee reports.
Sadie and I have one.
Sadie has one.
Sadie and I.
Sadie and Emily have a report.
Yes, I will read it. So Sadie and I are now on the board for the Community Partnership Network. There have been new bylaws that were approved in June 2022. We've extended our partnership, and we have a new board that's been meeting since April 2023. And so our current members are Emily Hubbard and Sadie Weiss. Ray Cumming is representing AFT. Sabrina Little is an Ashland parent, and I also am a parent of a kid in a CPN school. And then Andrew Eason is a teacher from Ashland, and Erica Ellis is a teacher from Merrimack. And Claire Crapo has been attending, representing the superintendent's office. The Community Partnership Network right now has 2 schools in it that are very high need and very low test scores. And it is a particular way to get more resources to these schools more quickly and have it more like a community school model. There's a lot of the things that the Urban League was doing are similar, but there's also ways that leadership is more bottom up. There's teacher leadership teams. And there's still a lot of work to do. But we are developing a new MOU to have with the district and learning from Chicago's Sustainable Schools models and thinking about having a partnership with communities in schools, which partners with Kansas City Public Schools. There's been so much going on with the CPN. It was originally the Consortium Partnership Network, which is pretty redundant. I was very skeptical as a parent that was deeply concerned about privatization. And I was right to be skeptical, but a lot has changed. And I'm really looking forward to what we can do with this board and this partnership, this network. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Hubbard. Any other board reports? Mr. Davis?
Sure. The citywide plan, June 20th, will be the ad hoc meeting, which we do expect a presentation of the draft of the blueprint. No?
June 20th?
What did I say? June 20th, right?
It's not June 20th.
What's the date?
I thought it was June 26th.
Oh, June 26th. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else. June 26th. I apologize. So they're diligently working on that draft, and so we will get a view of that first on the 26th. If I could combine legislative committee with the community engagement plan. So all the board members have received a copy of a draft community engagement plan, which would we'd be asking to adopt as a board policy. This is based on last year's SB 681. It is now the law of Missouri in revised statute 162058. So all school districts in the state of Missouri are required to adopt a community engagement plan by July 1st of this year. I want to thank Ms. Henry for taking both the MSBA model community engagement plan as well as looking at other school districts and modeling something for us. This complies with what the statute requires. The biggest change in this would be that we would be changing from the public comment model we have to the ability for representatives of the community to ask to be placed on a board agenda subject to the limitations in the community engagement plan. And there are some limitations on being placed on the board agenda. You need to first request that, and before you're placed on the agenda, you have a meeting with the superintendent or her designee. And so we want to circulate this. Part of the law is also that we get some community engagement on the community engagement plan. So I want all of you to offer your suggestions to Ms. Willis, who will then, in her department, will circulate that. The suggested way from MSBA that most school districts are doing is just to include it in some sort of email or newsletter, social media, to give a period of time for people to read it and give their feedback, and then we can incorporate that into the final community engagement plan, which we need to vote on by July 1st. So any questions about that?
Is it the law that it has to be called a community engagement plan?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it is. It's 162058, if anybody wants to read it.
I think we might have some old policies that are very similar. Is this adopting a new policy or something else?
Yeah, I think this will have to, we'll have to also rescind at least one, maybe a couple, in term, but I think the ones that we have are real vague. So I don't even know if it matters. This is gonna be much more specific and have, the criteria, have the procedure that we have to have according to the law.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. We have professional development coming up June 16th to the 18th. I know we have 6 of the 7 board members that will be in attendance for the professional development with MSBA Summer Summit that will be in Branson, Missouri. I think I need a motion for approval.
I'll move to approve the professional development request for all board members to attend the MSBA Summer Summit.
Second. Ms. Henry.
Mr. Heiss?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Al? Yes. Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
I had the opportunity to attend the, what is it, Edum Plus? Education Plus Professional Leadership Development last Saturday, as well as I serve as the Youth Council Chair for the Board of Aldermen Youth Council Chair Legislative. So we'll be working on some youth activities this upcoming summer. We will talk more about that. If there are no other reports, I make a motion to close session to close this open session to go into closed session.
Second.
Ms. Henry.
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Lau? Yes. Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
You can take that with you. Yeah, you can take that with you. That's for the hotel and all that stuff. For a brand.